Happy Hump Day, everybody. Welcome in.
Mike.
Rainy morning in the Big O. Congratulations to Gene Stothert. Will be the mayor of Omaha for the fourth term officially next month.
Dynasty?
It will be, I think that's record-setting. It'll be the longest tenure as a mayor.
Congratulations.
Omaha's Pat Mahomes.
Back to back.
Yeah, familiar with the mayoral race in this town?
No, I know, but I now live here, so I actually should
Breaking news.
Yeah. This is actually a great conversation of me actually growing up and being an adult. I actually do now have to care about mayoral races and who the judges are, and because now it's no longer it's my parents' thing, it's a me thing, it's a my paycheck thing. So this is kind of I didn't really pay attention to the race yesterday. I should pay attention to the race. This is a growing period. I'm now political Matt.
Jokic had 61.
Josh Hudson will be livid.
Yeah.
Did he get livid? Can you look at the votes to see if he got written in or not? If anyone actually went up to the ballot?
I should have.
I was told last night so someone at the Warner Park last night was going through the 8:45 returns, and they said, "Hey, 30 write-in votes. Do you think you got a vote for the mayoral race?" And I said, "No." I think after all the ballots are counted, they do publish who the write-in candidates were.
Damn.
That would be one of the greatest accomplishments in Odson's life if he was a write-in candidate in the mayoral race.
You don't think,
Josh, I'm sorry. I should have voted. I didn't know this was going on.
By the way, that he got at least one vote. I think there was one loyal Connor Happer show listener who showed up to the ballots and who understood the importance of writing in Josh Odson's name and what it would not only mean for the show, but maybe even for the station.
Yeah.
The entire station.
What if it was Josh himself?
Still counts.
Well,
that voted and wrote his name in.
Do you know what would be really funny? If Josh Odson got 2 votes and he was like, well, one of them was me, so someone else did it too. So I was good no matter what. That'd be really funny, though. That'd be a great bit if he's the one who went in, wrote down his name, but then didn't tell anybody, and then took it as a massive victory lap and just carried the flag around the place I'm the mayor.
I remember in Lincoln when I was living down there and working at a news talk station, so you hear about the political races a little bit more often. There would be more than likely before Coach Osborne got into politics, coaches would get write-in votes. There was one year, I think it was the mayoral race, Colleen Sang, who was everybody's grandma, a longtime mayor in Lincoln. Frank Solich got write-in votes.
How about that?
Yeah, but Odson will be livid because she's winning next month, so she's going to be the mayor.
Yeah.
And so we have an event next week, which drove Odson crazy last year because I know the mayor a little bit, and she came up, she said hello, and Odson was there with me. And she goes, "Let me introduce you to my husband." And Josh just walked away. So I wonder what he'll be like today. But congratulations to Mayor Gene Stothert. We have a 4-timer. I know that
the Braves win.
I know that they have more of the election next month. But come on, this is not like FDU beating Purdue.
Sure,
okay?
this is
not
going
to happen.
Fair enough.
The sports calendar now that we've moved into April is screwing with my sleep schedule.
Yeah, so this is where you and I have the conversation of who the bigger Cubs fan is, because I know that you stayed up yesterday for the 9:00 game to see.
I didn't know this was a debate.
No, it's not a debate.
Okay,
it's not a debate at all. It's obviously Gary's, because ugly. I don't do 9:00 games. I'm sorry. I watched Eugenio Suarez. I watched the Diamondbacks Yankees game yesterday.
All that guy does is hit home runs. By the way,
that's the
Matt
funny
didn't
thing
see
too.
the ball go through Durham's legs.
People, you and I know. But there are people.
F off.
I'm with you.
Hey, that was 84. We got a World Series title in 16.
I'm on your side.
By the way, I feel like every time you bring up anything Chicago, it's bad. Anytime it's Buckner or it's the double doink.
Buckner wasn't bad in Chicago.
Well, that was in New York, but still.
Billy Buck, man. Rest in peace, 22 with the Cubs.
Anyway, what I was going to say is that it's funny because you and I know that Eugenio Suarez, all he does is mash, and that's all he's been doing for the Reds for his entire career. But I feel like now more people are finding out that the dude just steps up to the plate and hits homers. But yesterday, bases loaded, 8th inning, 2 outs, 4-3 Diamondbacks. My roommate's in his room, and I go, Dan, Eugenio's batting. You got to come in here. He rocked that Mark Leiter Jr. splitter. But after that, I go, all right, it's 8:30. It's time for me to get ready for the show. I did all my studying, I did all my note taking, and then I went to bed. I don't do the West Coast games. I'm sorry. I do.
So this is
I
what
do
it
the
sounds
Midwest
like when I say
games,
this.
and I do the East Coast games. I don't do West Coast Cubs games. I don't. I go to bed. I wake up in the morning, and before I go to my CBS Sports app, I go, I really hope they won last night. And then I look at the score, and it's like a nice little surprise. It's like a nice little treat.
Well, it was Kyle Tucker homered again in Mini Coors Field.
You're welcome.
Without the altitude in Sacramento. So game opening night at Warner Park last night, the weather wasn't really good. The weather was cold. It was cold. Like first pitch, it felt like maybe in the mid-40s. Like the Big Ten would have some speaks with the Storm Chasers about playing their
real
game last
feel.
night. That game went on forever. So that game lasted about 3 hours. So I hop in the car and I drive home. But do you guys? So nobody knows this, and I haven't been able to figure this out. So we're in a town of 1 million people.
Yep.
And
people do forget.
People here sometimes don't know how to drive very well. And I can guarantee you two things in my area where I drive a lot. 84th between 4 and 6, 84th and I-80 is going to be backed up. Okay, not on 84th Street, not on I-80.
No, I know what you mean.
And then everybody slows down at the Giles exit on 80. Okay, it'll be backed up, but once you get past it, you're zooming. So yesterday, 6:30 first pitch out at Warner Park, and I was the official scorer last night. So I wanted to get there a little bit early, opening day, go through the ritual, catch up with people I haven't seen for a while. Leave my house at 5 o'clock. Everybody knows I live in Exarban Village. Okay, so usually on a bad day, takes me 30 minutes to get to Warner Park.
Oh no.
Okay, I leave right at 5. I'm out of the garage. I'm on the road. Wheels are rolling.
Yeah,
at
I'm
5.
getting kind of.
Yeah, this is. So I'm getting uncomfortable.
I don't get to the porn shop on 84th at the intersection there. Well, there's also a Denny's and a McDonald's, but probably people.
That's a very strategical place to put a porn shop.
And there's a tire shop. It's like
that is an incredible combination of
stores. It's like the cross section of America at 84th and I'm going to say I-80.
That's incredible. You can get a bite to eat, make sure your car's ready to go, and then grab a nice movie on the way home.
Clean the pipes.
Is that what you do when you get a movie?
It's a night. Those are movies. Those are films. There are actors and actresses.
Talking pictures, as they were once called.
Yes,
I think the internet.
Some are silent films.
I think the internet, just like it killed Blockbuster, I think has deterred the movie sales at porn shops.
I do still
do
think,
some research for me and get back.
Yeah,
to me.
Can you? Maybe but I still think that there definitely are some old school cats out there who like to have it in a DVD or a VCR.
Okay, he's in
Picturing
prison.
cats.
I believe that Ron Jeremy's in prison. Okay,
I'm speaking about my dad.
Your dad likes porn?
Whoa. I'm making a joke.
Shout out, Dad.
I don't know. I don't know what that guy does.
Not that we would be opposed.
No.
I mean, some people have certain vices.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've barely been around my father in the last 5 years. He could have taken up knitting for all I care at this point.
Oh,
that's quite the range there. That your father could be a knitter or a porn watcher.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. That's what I'm telling you.
What if you do them at the same time?
Him and I haven't been around each other a lot.
We need a sweater.
We could also be the brand new John Wayne Gacy. We don't know.
He could. Let me tell you something right now. I get on the phone with that guy. We talk about the Bears, the Cubs, and fishing. All right? Like on tune, like clockwork every week. Like that is the only things that we talk about. And then he goes, how's your job? And I go, it's going pretty well. He goes, how's Gary? I go, he's doing pretty well. How's Jimmy? Jimmy's doing great. All right. And then I go, how's your job? And he goes, it's great. It's going well. All right, Dad, talk to you next week.
He doesn't say, how about that soprano? Man, she is a very good actress.
No.
Okay. So from my house, I leave at 5. I don't get to that intersection until 5:29.
That's not very far from you.
So now I'm starting to get a little bit concerned because I noticed that the interstate is backed up. And this is 5:30 yesterday. So I get on the interstate. It took me leaving my house at 5 o'clock, going down Center to 84th and then 84th to the interstate to get off on 144th to go in the back way into Warner Park. It took me from 5 until 6:01 to get to Q.
Oh my Lord!
So, and I was asking people, and no one,
city of a million people for you.
No one knew if it was an accident or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God! So I'm texting people at the ballpark, and I'm like, hey man, I'm going to be coming in hot. So the game goes 3 hours last night. Storm Chasers lost. They play today, by the way, at noon. So come home, and I know the Cubs are on, so I want to watch the Cubs game, and so I can't turn it off because every swing in that ballpark, you think it is going to Oregon. Okay, it is. It's a mini Coors Field. They need a humidor for the baseballs.
I saw that tweet yesterday.
and
I had to look up what a humidor was.
And because they did it, when like Coors Field became such a launching pad, they put the baseballs in a humidor, and it kind of cut down.
Yeah,
but they're going to have some issues. I would not want to have an Oakland A pitcher on my fantasy team, but if I have a hitter, I am loading up. I love Mr. Butler on my fantasy team. So watching that game, we got a star, by the way. Kyle Tucker, 4 straight games, home run.
Yeah.
Cubs, by the way,
he's awesome.
Are back to 500 on our soil. They're 4-2. So I'm watching.
By the way, we're not going to let that go the entire year. Like the entire year, I'm going to subtract 2 games from our loss total.
You should.
Those
That's another country.
Count. They should not count. I'm still annoyed by them.
They
all right,
we
were clearly
there.
not ready to play, and it was an away game too. I mean, like that was absolutely ridiculous that we had to go to Japan to play Sasaki and Yamamoto and Ohtani. All right, and they go, well, you got Suzuki and Imanaga. That's not the same thing. That is not the same thing at all. It's like if the Von Erichs wrestled in Texas and they're like, well, you got Michael. That doesn't count. Michael's not a wrestler.
So watching the Cubs game from Sacramento, there's a little birdie in my head that's telling me Kevin Harlan is having himself a night. So, the NBA slips in some midweek basketball.
Yeah.
On
Shout
TNT.
out Curry. Shout out Jokic.
Hey, TNT, by the way, has the best score going in sports production. Like their music.
Oh, yeah.
Their music is on top until we get Round Ball Rock back in NBC. So watching, I'm like, okay, anytime that Kevin Harlan's doing a game, it's a big game. And I think the NBA is his best sport. I'm okay with him when he does Westwood 1 here on the Zone, just for us, the NFL games. Mm-hmm. College basketball, he is good, but I think the NBA.
The NBA is where he shines.
Is in his wheelhouse. I loved him when I first met him. He's the first broadcaster I ever asked for an autograph because he was doing Missouri and they played at Drake when I was a kid, and I was able to listen to KCMO 810 out of Kansas City in Des Moines. So I got to know like the personalities.
Sure.
And Mizzou came to Vets Auditorium to play Drake, and so little Gary went up to Kevin Harlan and asked for his autograph.
Oh, that was your first one?
That was my first. That might be because I didn't ask, but I had Vin Scully sign something. But he's the only, I think, broadcaster that I've ever asked in person to sign something.
Wow,
friend of the show.
So
mine was Bill Winnington.
Okay,
NBA champion Bill Winnington.
Yeah.
Now see, that's different because that's like a player and
analyst or whatever. That's not like a true announcer, but like
that's a good pull.
Yeah.
So anytime Kevin Harlan's doing a game, it's a big game. There's certain announcers where if they're on a game, it's usually a big game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or they give it a big game feel. So I'm like, you know what? I already like the Timberwolves and Nuggets playing because essentially, isn't that Omaha's teams?
Yes.
Like we're smack dab in the middle of Timberwolf and Nugget country.
And it's a really good matchup too. Like in terms of like
how arguing
teams,
fights start in Omaha.
Those teams are built to play each other close in terms of like what they're best at and what they're weakest at. It's always a good game when those guys play.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I may have, along with a few of you others that stayed up and watched this entire game that went into double overtime and had big leads erased, and then a big lead set and erased, and crazy performances and a crazy end of the game where
Russell Westbrook,
Jokic reminds you what much of a unicorn he is, and then Russell Westbrook reminds you how his basketball IQ, where he makes enough wow plays where you go, my God, that guy is unbelievable, and then he makes a play where you go, what the? Because he misses a layup at the end of double overtime. Yeah. He misses a layup, and then he comes back and fouls on a 3, and that's how the Timberwolves win. They won 140-139. I think that sacrificing sleep, I may have watched one of the best regular season NBA games of all time last night in Denver between the T-Wolves and Denver, and I want the playoffs to be played, but I just want it to be the Timberwolves
just
and Nuggets.
Every series.
They just play every game.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I'm cool with that.
I do. I know it's the NBA. The NBA in April is a little bit different from the NBA in January.
Mm-hmm.
I think watching that game, because I couldn't go to sleep, I was like, oh my God. It was, Jokic had 61 last night. He had triple-double.
And they lost.
And I can't imagine what that locker room was like. But I think that I may have seen, and with anybody else, one of the best, if not the best, regular season game ever in the history of the NBA last night.
What I'm impressed with you and your ability to watch the late night games is that I will stay up for the 9 o'clock tips of the 9 o'clock games. And I'll tell you something right now. I am like dozing in and out. While like when we get to like 10 o'clock, 10:15, like I am like eyes wide open, eyes shut, eyes wide open. Like there have been times
doing that
where I shut my eyes and I feel like I open them. And when I shut them, we were 8 minutes left in the third quarter, and I opened them. There's 4 minutes left to play. Like I am in and out of it during these games.
You know, as we get ready for the playoffs in the NBA, you got to prepare yourself accordingly. Because your Bulls are now in.
My Bulls are in.
Last night for at least the play-in.
We're once again in the play-in. I am using once again. I think it's fourth,
that time of the year, Bulls fans.
It's the fourth year in a row that we are in the play-in. We have a shot to get to the 7th spot, which is nice. Ooh. Typically, we're in the 8 or 9. So last year we were in the 10.
They used to be in the 1 every year.
I am using this play-in. I want to warn everybody right now because I used to be a Bulls fan. Like the Bulls used to be my number 1 team.
Whoa, you've given up on a hometown team that you have?
What happened?
These kids these days.
Wait. You have to understand. And my relationship with Chicago sports is that I care about all the teams. Like I want all the teams to win. I know what's going on with
even
all
the
4.
Sox.
And so I really do have seasons, right? Growing up was the Cubs. Then it became the Hawks. Then it was the Bulls. Then in my teens, it was the Bears, like really took over. Now it's kind of been the Bears all the way through my 20s. But there was a minute during the like Levine trading for Vucevic, signing DeRozan, getting a ball where I was all in on the Bulls. Like I was there. Like when they got Jabari Parker, I thought the Bulls were gonna. I'm like, we got a future, man. We're building toward it.
It's like when they signed Scott Burrell in '97.
Then it really ended when Lonzo got hurt. And then I went to game 1 of the 2021 first round of the playoffs, Milwaukee versus Chicago in the Pfizer Forum. I went with my father. Milwaukee played their worst game of the playoffs. They still beat the Bulls. That was kind of the end of my Bulls phase. I am using this play-in game, Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Pat Williams as my tryout to see if I will be back to being Bulls Matt, if I will be back to being Association McMaster, because I used to listen to the Low Post podcast religiously every single week. It was it still is an incredible listen. He signed with the Ringer with Bill Simmons. If him and Bill Simmons start doing stuff,
talking about
Zach Lowe. Yeah. Oh my God, it's gonna be incredible. But I am using the play-in as a tryout to see if I will be back into the Bulls next season.
Does Jokic tick people off?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
I like him.
He has a
pony.
It almost seems like he is effortless, and his ability at that size to do stuff down low or outside or passing or everything that he does. So he is one of one. But I think it's an act. So if you watch into the post game from last night, and it's funny because you can tell him and Russell Westbrook were not going to shotgun willies after the game.
No,
because Minnesota misses a free throw at the end, and Jokic just whacks the ball. It's loose on the floor, and he just whacks the ball, and that's how the game ends. So after the game, he does his regular press conference. Oh, no, I go home. No parade. But I think it's an act because he has to care. Now, he played the last 40 minutes of that game last night. Yeah. He was worn out. But I think that people I think he would drive people nuts because he is so good, but gives the impression that he doesn't care. I believe that he cares. There's no way he doesn't care. I think it is an act that he has let perpetrate for a while, and that's okay. I mean, he might be the greatest basketball player on the planet. If he's not, he's at least number 2. But I think he would rub people the wrong way because they're like, you know what? Oh, I'm sick of this. Because last night someone asked him about his stats, and he does, he's going,
it's good to go home and drink beer and lie about it later. Yeah, that's what it's good for.
But he
care.
He cares.
I scored lots of points.
But last night, if you see the clip of their post game, I can see why some voters, which Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably going to win the MVP, and he's had a hell of a year as well. But I can see some voters get sick of Jokic.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Like Nash about 20 years ago.
You watch Anthony Edwards play, and you watch him see what he does, and you know that you could never, ever do that. And you know that you could have generations of kids after that, and they will never be able to do what Anthony Edwards does. You can say that for so many incredible NBA athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're exactly right. It pisses people off that he's not flying through the air, that he's not the fastest guy on the court, that he's not jumping out of the gym, that he's just this big blob that has been blessed with incredible touch and European basketball skill, that somehow has discovered a way to put the basketball on a yo-yo, not from a passing perspective, but even like a shooting perspective. Like, it infuriates.
And by the way, there's no such thing as a jump shot. He basically is a three as a set shot.
I know. It just
He's
looks
Sabonis if he didn't get hurt.
I think it makes people mad.
That's a great comp.
Wow. Good. Yeah, that's a good one.
Hey,
I love watching Arvidas pass.
We're going to talk a lot about Russians today. Continue on.
All right.
Well, yeah, 3 away, baby. But I mean, he looks like he's at the Y. He looks like he's at the Y, and I think it makes people mad. And then he gets to the podium and goes, "Oh my." Wait, I have to stay 2 more days for the parade? I have to go to parade. I need to go back home. I want to see my horses.
He was funny after the game last night because he was like, because he was looking at the stats.
Oh, great.
They were trying to lead him into a path of talk. What they really should have said, do you hate Russell Westbrook? I hate him very much. So what he does, and I could watch him every day. I think it's unbelievable what he does. But last night, they put him back into the game. It was about late second quarter, and he didn't come out for a long time.
In Denver.
Like, they kept him in the game. They kept him in the game at a key point at the beginning of the fourth quarter. They went on a 16-2 run to get back into the game. But I'm pretty sure I heard Kevin Harlan say that he played the last 40 minutes of that game. But ironically, so in the game in basketball, which you will not see these kind of things in the Crown today on quarterfinal
you won't see a 61
Wednesday.
Triple-double. But you might see a point guard make some really, really bad decisions that end up costing his team in the double overtime.
You might. I mean, I just say, hey, Bryce, go get yourself some. Go get a 50 burger.
Go get it would be very Bryce Williams to have a 61 triple-double tonight, and the Huskers still lose.
Welcome to Columbus.
Yeah.
But Curry had 52 last night. So when you're in amazement of what people can do in that sport, are you more amazed by Jokic or Curry? Because Curry was smoking last night. He looked like the vintage Steph Curry.
Like he doesn't get old.
I will always.
I will miss him, by the way.
So he had 12 3-pointers yesterday. He had 8 3-pointers in the first half, which is absolutely incredible. 3 away.
But they weren't just like, hey, let's run a set play and here's a curl and you just pull up. And so he was obnoxious hitting threes.
The answer to that question will always be Steph Curry, no matter who you put. Are you impressed with Curry or this? No. It will always be Steph Curry. It would just and it's like, because Jokic is bigger than a lot of guys. Like Jokic, I call him a big blob, but he is stronger than a lot of guys.
Don't call him a blob.
Yeah.
I think that's unfair.
Like, well,
that's
what he looks. Oh, no, that's what
he's going to come find you.
I know. That's what he looks like. But he is strong. Steph Curry, I don't think anyone will be ever able to do what he does. I just see how he fades away. He's fading left. He's fading right. He's off the dribble. He's on the catch. Laces, no lace. Doesn't matter. It just goes in. It just falls in the hoop. And like, he absolutely changed the game of basketball to the point where it's just like, it will always be Steph Curry. And I mean, as he continues to like put these performances together, like there are still people who are hovering around is he a top 10 player all time or not? I think it's
Curry.
I think for me, it's done and dusted. Like, I don't think there's any way you can have a top 10 anymore without putting Steph Curry in it, just because of his size, his build, his 4 championships, how he's changed the game, and it's just pure skill. I mean,
dude's so clutch when the game's on the line.
It's just, he's incredible. He's a magician, and he's been that way for like 13 years now, 12 years now. I mean, it's been a constant.
On his Davidson career.
It's been well, I'm just talking from an NBA perspective.
He didn't shoot that last shot.
It's been forever at this point that he's been doing it. So,
not
but
wild.
Fun fact: before yesterday, the Denver Nuggets had won 78% of their games when Nikola Jokic had a triple-double. Yesterday was one of the ones that they lost. 61 points.
Yeah, I'm sure that he had some speaks with Russell Westbrook. All right, coming up on the show, we'll talk some hoops. John Walker will stop by. Everybody is portaling as we get ready for the Final Four. And the next couple of days could be pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yeah? They will?
They will be.
Scoop? Got anything?
Well, just Trey Donaldson went in. Holloman went in. All these, like you, it just seems like every single day.
I don't know.
Getting...
You had the tone of a scoop. I didn't know if you.
Oh, no scoop in that.
Do I need to hit the?
I just think it's getting interesting. You were talking about in the first kind of go around of the portal, right? Where I think a lot of people were anticipating with football that a lot of the big names would enter in first, and we would kind of get the field of play already. Where you were exactly right. Where it's kind of been every other day. It seems like you're getting some bigger names that you're recognizing that are entering the portal one at a time.
Well, remember, we are about to come up on a dead period.
Yeah.
So John Walker will stop by at 9, Brandon Vogel at 9:40. The quirky, fascinating John Butler spoke yesterday, Nebraska's defensive coordinator. He had some things to say, and then players had some things to say. We've got things to say. As we'll talk some spring football if it's allowed on this radio station. Don't know if we have to clear that through somebody.
I can send an email if you need me to.
I had some speaks with that person who was monitoring that. I don't think we have to clear it.
Yeah. I think he's done on the show.
Yeah, that's we'll see what happens on next Monday.
I think we've moved on.
I think we have.
We're off and rolling on a Wednesday. Plus, we'll talk about what happened in Lincoln yesterday under the lights of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Nebraska Omaha in town tonight, 6:00. Yeah. Scary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, it is a Crown quarterfinal.
Hell yes.
It'll be a great drink. I kind of like the fact that Nebraska and Georgetown have never played, and they're playing tonight at 8:30. Get your grandpa nap in.
Yeah.
On Fox or FS1. Nebraska is a 7.5-point favorite in this game, of which will be built on who wants to go get the money more, because you make it to the semifinals, you get, the cash gets a little bit bigger. So, like, I want like players when they hit a big shot tonight, because don't hide that we're playing for money. Yeah, do the money sign. I want to make it rain. Okay, Bryce Williams pulls up from 35 to get to his 50 burger, and I want him to act like he is in the night before downtown Lincoln, and he is making it rain, baby.
You just want all money-pointed celebrations tonight.
You all in. It's Vegas.
You want the Manziel. You want the make it rain. You want the, stirring the pot. I like, you know what? I kind of like the fact, I agree with you in the regard, don't act like this is all from camaraderie and teamwork and we all love each other. Just admit it. You want a new Hellcat, right? You want to put a down payment on a new F-150. You want the little, you want some bling bling. It's okay. We all want that. Hell, if you told me that we were going to enter an off-season radio tournament to go and win a lot of money, I'd be all for it.
Yeah,
I'd be all for it. Hey, let's go and do it, Garrett. Let's go and make some cash.
I'm for honesty.
I like money.
What? Hey, if you're in it for money, what would we be like? Let's say, and he won't do this because he's not built that way. But what if, like, Bryce Williams said, you know what? Yeah, we had a crappy end of the season, and one game here or there, we would have been in the NCAA tournament. And the only reason we're playing is because they told us that we were obligated to play, even though we looked around the country and other schools were opting out of the Crown.
Yeah,
but they told us we have to go play, but we're playing for money. He goes, I need to make a payment on something I purchased. I bought a boat in the off season. And so I'm out there playing for money. Like, if a player said that, I'd be like, thank you. Because coaches won't say, I moved for the money. Like Buzz Williams, if he would say in his presser at Maryland, by the way, congratulations to my friend, Colleen Sorum, who we were together at FGCU. She was the associate AD at Maryland. And then when Evans left to go to SMU, Cozine got promoted. Mm-hmm. And I sent her some texts, and I'm like, I feel bad for you. She got a guy last night, Buzz Williams. But
Good
what
hire.
if Buzz Williams?
I like him.
What if Buzz Williams at Maryland says, okay, we like the honesty of Will Wade. We didn't like the lying of Kevin Willard. But what if Buzz Williams, in this honesty world of sports, says, the reason I left Texas A&M is because I was not comfortable with the athletic director's plan to invest more in football than men's basketball when it comes to rev share. And I wanted to go to a place that is a basketball school, not a football school. Would we be able to consume that and go, oh, that makes perfect sense?
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people today going, Buzz,
I get
Texas A&M to Maryland, but the Maryland job as a whole is better than the whole of the Texas A&M job.
Yes.
But I believe that is absolutely true. Why he is leaving Texas A&M. Nate Oates, there were whispers, remember, about he was not happy about the amount of money that Alabama basketball was going to get because they were going to go on football. I think we're going to get to a point where you have to declare if you're a football or basketball school. But if he said, hey, I want to be at a basketball school, would we go, come on, man?
No, absolutely not.
So it's okay for somebody to say in the Crown, like Malik Mack goes, man, you don't say, I got some mouths to feed.
Dude,
I'm going out there to get the bag.
You should see my NFM card, right? You think these couches are going to pay off themselves? You think these computers are going to pay off themselves? I only got 4 months left before interest starts adding up on this thing. I got to pay these off. I mean, back to your question about Buzz, like in this kind of era of college athletics, there's a lot of secrecy, right? There's a lot of numbers that we think we know and that we don't know. And we have every other week, there's another On3 article that's guesstimating how much NIL a player may or may not be making. It's not just a breath of fresh air. It is just like falling out of a plane in terms of how refreshing it is to hear people actually be honest about what is going on. And the funny thing is we talk about all these coaching searches and you bring up Will Wade. Will Wade easily just went from McNeese over to NC State, and he just said plain and clearly, yeah, I'm talking to them. Yeah, we're having discussions.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm interested in that job. And nobody had a problem with it, right? People have a problem when you got a guy like Kevin Willard who's saying, oh, I'm not talking to anybody. Oh, I don't know. You would have to ask my agent. Like, we are just in the era of where honesty is the best policy. If you're just honest, people are going to take it the best way.
The Lego Maniac writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, where you can as well, Gary at 1620thezone.com or Matt at 1620thezone.com. I didn't ask him if he watched any of the game on Monday night. You know you'll be there tonight. 7.5-point favorite, 8:30 tip.
7.5 points is. I mean, I guess they don't have Sorber or any of their or Jaden Epps or any of their top players or PV, but like 7.5.
I bring it up.
7.5.
I bring it up for reference. Again, if you're betting on the Crown, let's. Come with me.
What is worse?
Let's walk through the fantasy land, okay?
But what if you win?
What is worse, betting on the Crown or preseason football? Like, who's got more of the gambling problem, the preseason football guy or the Crown guy? I would say it's the Crown guy, because at least preseason football, like, you want to get it, want to get a taste of it back. Yeah. Like, you want to sweat an over, you want to sweat an under, right?
Weren't most of the games yesterday blowouts? Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. This is a tournament that had DePaul in it.
Oh, all right! Congratulations, DePaul.
I thought DePaul might have been. Let me go and look.
Weren't most games yesterday blowouts?
DePaul lost by 22. No, UCF was a 1-point game.
Wasn't Tulane?
Nova won by 21, and USC won by 29. Shout out St. Thomas, had a really good game, 14.7-10 from the field.
Zach says the Crown Tournament is the college basketball equivalent of the participation trophy.
Well,
it's what kids get these days.
I don't know.
You don't get
I didn't get a $20 bill.
It's not
for
like
my
when we did the
participation
spelling
trophy
bee
after T-ball. You know, I wasn't able to go after my participation trophy. I didn't go to GameStop and get a video game, get a Wii game.
Can we go to McDonald's? No, winners go to McDonald's.
I mean,
jeez, I just had PTSD.
It's true though. You lose, you shouldn't be rewarded with a Happy Meal.
I know.
Unless you had 61 and a triple double.
I love it now. My mom can't tell me, though, do you have McDonald's money? Because now I do have McDonald's money. I can buy my own McDonald's. It's great. It's awesome.
Zach has responded, no, I did not I absolutely didn't watch the game on Monday, and I won't watch any of it. It's worthless. And Hoiberg should be focused on the transfer portal, not a worthless participation trophy tournament. He is. Price Sanford.
Not official, but... All signs are
the
pointing.
The trend is really, really good.
One has invited one to their place after dinner.
Let's start the morning with Andrew. Good morning,
Drew.
Hey, boys, how you doing?
Good, Andrew. How's your Wednesday? How was April Fool's Day?
It was. I work with little kids, so it doesn't take much to trick them. Let's be honest.
Ain't that the truth?
That's what makes you a great teacher.
Let's be honest about college sports and these comings and goings anymore. It's all about the green.
Mm-hmm.
There's no loyalty left. I mean, just say it out loud. Just say it out loud. Nothing worse to say that.
Andrew, can I ask you a question though? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from in terms of the loyalty aspect, right? But if you don't have money to go and get the best players, right, you're going to be at an inherent disadvantage against a lot of your competitors. And if you don't have that money, you're going to get worse players. And if you have worse players, there's a better chance, it's not a guarantee, but there's a better chance that you'll have a worse team. You'll end up losing games, and then you'll lose your job, right? And you don't want that to happen. So I understand the whole loyalty aspect, but isn't there also an aspect of like, you got to do what's best for you, and you got to do what's best for your career, and you got to put yourself in the best situation?
I mean, if you sign, let's say, a $7 million if you signed a 5-year, $35 million contract guaranteed, it doesn't matter how you do. You got the money. I mean, you got the money.
I'm talking from an NIL perspective. I'm talking from
NIL.
being given money to go and get players perspective, which is back to your point with the whole, it's all about the dollars, because it is all about the dollars.
I mean, it's capitalism at its finest. Some have money and some don't.
Yep.
I mean,
but I just don't think with coaches in the disloyalty that some athletic departments may have and disloyalty that some players may have. I just don't think with where the money is flowing and what the coaches have to do in order to survive and to get their players, that I just don't think we're in the loyalty convo anymore. I just think we're in the if you have a situation to put yourself in the best situation, you got to do that.
And like you brought up earlier today, schools that are focused on one sport, I feel like you're probably going to have to focus on a few sports to be really good.
Yeah.
And then not give out much money to the other sports.
Yep. You have to declare.
I mean, you're going to have to come to a point where we're a football, basketball school, and you might even have to say that out loud.
Yes.
We don't have money for volleyball or anything like that. Also, on the movie front, a great actor died.
Yeah. I'm your Huckleberry, Andrew.
We lost the second Iceman.
He was the best Doc Holliday there ever was.
Hey,
just a tremendous.
Man, and you are spot on. The fact that he did not get a nomination for supporting actor in Tombstone is it's one of the biggest misses in Oscar history.
It was a crime. It was a crime.
Yes.
Let me tell you, if anybody hasn't watched Tombstone, get out there today, on demand, whatever, watch it. Doc Holliday, you couldn't have played that any better.
Yeah, that's
all I have.
That was great. Andrew, thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
Val Kilmer passed away last night. He had, a true icon. He's looking for his wingman upstairs, but an 80s legend from Tombstone to Top Gun to The Doors. Real genius. So he also played. He played some obscure, was that Val Kilmer? He was a villain in MacGruber, he was really, really funny. He had some health issues late in life where his voice went away. Maybe one of his greatest performances was the second Top Gun, where that was him. And
a lot of onions
later in his movies, as he lost his voice, they would recreate his voice. But he had, I think, pneumonia. He'd been battling it for a while, but he was a true icon. There are so many credits for Val Kilmer. But again, I love Tombstone. Tombstone is one of my favorite movies, and his performance as Doc Holliday, unbelievable. Didn't even get nominated. Not even nominated. Now, the list of that year for supporting actors was a banger, but the fact that he could not even sneak in there, and I robbed Val Kilmer.
I admittedly have not watched enough Val Kilmer movies, but I did watch
Real Genius.
I did watch Top Gun. I did watch Top Gun Maverick. I know my dad. I don't know if he's awake yet, but I know when he's going to wake up. He will probably send a text being like, "Rest in peace, Val Kilmer," because he's like you. He absolutely loves him as an actor.
Did we like him as Batman?
I liked him. It wasn't my favorite, but the thing is, he was Val Kilmer. So it's like, if it's Val Kilmer, I'm watching.
There are a couple that's a great point, Jimmy. There are a couple Batman actors where it is Batman, and then there are a couple of Batman actors where it's like, no, I'm pretty sure that's just Ben Affleck.
I was not in for Affleck.
No, I wasn't either. But I did like Affleck's character, the actual Batman, what they build it to be. I did like. I just didn't like his acting. I just thought it was Ben Affleck running around.
Like I said, there are two Icemen. George Gervin, Val Kilmer.
Yeah, the only two that can be referred to as Iceman.
That is such a great nickname. That's up there, all-time nicknames.
It's a big deal, and it is a big deal. He's an 80s legend with an incredible catalog of movies. National news this morning, that's what they led with.
Wow.
All right, transition here. Eric would like to talk some football. Good morning, E.
Hey, good morning. Hey, shift gears a little bit. I just kind of wanted to talk about John Butler. Not quite sure, how he's going to do, wins, losses wise, but one of the most refreshing things I kind of took away from his press conference was one of my biggest gripes, down in Lincoln, the past couple previous coaching staffs was, seemed like they like to crown guys a lot. And the one thing that I really took away from Butler's presser was like when he was asked about Nikola or Sierra Wright, he really kind of deferred to the team, and he seems kind of more old school that way, and that was just really refreshing to me. You guys were speaking about being truthful and how refreshing that is earlier. So I'm really impressed with his approach that way. So hopefully that kind of trickles down to the rest of the team, because I think that's one of the issues we've been having down in Lincoln, is kind of crowning guys before they've proven themselves on the field. So I'm just kind of curious what you guys think. He's a quirky dude, but I think he's going to be good. So
how about this?
Curious what you guys think.
How about this, Eric? We kind of consume coordinators and then we chew them up and spit them out. Does Nebraska football have three of the most unique individuals that are coordinators in all of college football, whether it be Dana Holgorsen, John Butler, or Mike Eckler?
Yeah.
There's no hey, there's Tim Beck over there. Hey, there's Sean Watson.
They're all a little quirky.
It's like getting three Mario Verduzcos and making them coordinators.
Yeah, they're all different, but they all
make sense.
Like, there's something they mesh well together. They all kind of seem like the same dude. Like they all kind of fall from the same tree. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that meshes. And I think if people give them time, I think it's going to work out really well for us. So
thanks for the call. Have a great day.
Kind of what Eric was saying. You listen to all three of them and you sit down and you hear what they say. They all just seem smart. They also just seem like they just know what they're doing. They have a ton of experience. They all just seem like they're smart dudes.
Who's your favorite coordinator that sat down and you're like, that guy's dumb?
Well, I mean,
leading question?
That's a good point. But like, you listen to them talk, they have a lot of knowledge, but they're also, all three of them, and mainly Eckler and Butler, they're stern. Like, you asked me last week if I was intimidated, or if I had been intimidated a little bit by Dana Holgorsen and the fact that he's a straight shooter. I was a little intimidated by Butler yesterday. I mean, he had this kind of seriousness and sternness about him, but he also he just knows what he's talking about. He's on it, but he also provided really, really good answers to questions. There was a slight, like, he was giving it, and he was being real serious about stuff. There was slight intimidation there.
All right, there's a little spring football content for you. Sorry.
Yeah. Make yourself a house of popcorn.
My bad. Sorry, guys.
We'll talk about Nebraska baseball. Okay. We'll do that.
We'll talk about all the Nebraska sports.
Yeah. Wait till we get into track and field.
Shout out Tyus.
Hour 2 coming next. Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. And if you're just tuning in, Val Kilmer overnight passed away at the age of 65. He had been battling an illness for a while, but incredible career, and now I'm going to get angry. So the injustice that, there's a lot of snubs in Oscar history, a lot of snubs.
That's a big one, though.
There are a couple.
This is like an injustice that is served colder than a saloon's beer. This is the 66th Academy Awards. This is the Best Supporting Actor that Doc Holliday was not nominated for. Now, pretty good list, but you're telling me that he couldn't get on this list.
Like 93, right? 93, yes. 95.
Okay. Tommy Lee Jones, The Fugitive. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Leonardo DiCaprio. Schindler's List, Ralph Fiennes. In the Line of Fire, John Malkovich.
Oh, he was good in that.
And then Peter, in the Name of the Father, Peter Postlethwaite.
Oh, I don't remember that.
No.
That was not on the kid movie
Here's
list.
the thing. So, I like The Fugitive. I like Schindler's List. Tommy Lee Jones won Best Supporting Actor in this year.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing.
It's a good movie.
About Val Kilmer and Doc Holliday. There was charm, there was wit, there was menace, there was vulnerability, and he had this Southern drawl. Every line in that movie felt iconic. It felt like every time that Doc Holliday spoke, you were like, okay.
You paid attention.
And this is, you can appreciate actors or actresses that play a certain role. Like, we expect this when Rihanna and the Smurfettes movie comes out. We expect...
Whoa, way to bury the lead. I didn't know this.
It's coming out midsummer.
Hell yes.
Rihanna is
out
playing...
Of all the movies
Smurfettes.
that you could preview, you went with Rihanna and the
because,
Smurfettes.
Now listen, I'm getting here.
You know that like the 2025, 2026 have some pretty damn good movies coming out.
Yeah.
And you
said one of them.
You went with Rihanna and the Smurfettes.
I mean, how is that? That's like, so not only do you play Smurfette, but you become Smurfette. That's how to tie in with Doc Holliday, because I'll be the only talk show host in America that just did that. Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer didn't just play Doc Holliday.
He became
him. And for that...
And Rihanna didn't just play Smurfette. Yeah. She became Smurfette.
And he wasn't and I'm going off here because this is one of my favorite movies. And this,
go ahead.
This rustles the cockles. He wasn't just a side character in that movie. He was like the heart of Tombstone.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a drunk and you're taunting Johnny Ringo, or you're standing right there with Wyatt Earp in the final act. If you remember the end of Tombstone, I don't want to be a spoiler alert here, but they had a little bit of loyalty, I would call it, at the end.
They cook the pizza.
Yeah, it's one of the most captivating performances of the decade. And you know what? Didn't even get nominated.
I think couple
Rest
snubs,
in peace, Powers Booth. Too.
Couple of snubs that I think of. Number one, Shawshank Redemption had 7 nominations. I believe it was in 1995 or 1997. One of those.
The movie
years.
came out in 94, but yes,
1995. They didn't win one Oscar. No one won one Oscar from that entire movie, which is considered one of the 10 to 15 greatest films.
It was up against
ever.
Forrest Gump.
Not one. Yeah. Morgan Freeman didn't win Best Supporting Actor. Nobody won. Didn't win Best Picture. Won nothing. That's crazy. Number 2, and these are a little bit more recent because I'm younger, obviously. Black Klansman. Have you seen Black Klansman with Adam Driver? An incredible movie.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Give me the other actor.
Denzel's son is in it. He's awesome.
There was and there's another guy too who was playing David Duke, who was actually a pretty common actor. He's in that 70s show.
Eric Foreman.
Yes.
Not Red. So that's Clarence Boddicker.
Spike Lee. That was an incredible film. Spike Lee didn't get nominated as a Best Director.
Yeah, he's got a couple of snubs.
He absolutely should have been nominated for Best Director in 2018 for that. And then Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler.
Scoring at home.
I thought Uncut Gems and his performance in that, and that was his shot at the Oscars. He put an incredible performance together. And I'm not saying that he should have won it, but the fact that he wasn't even nominated,
get some love.
That was ridiculous.
I don't think people enjoyed that movie because they were uncomfortable because of Adam Sandler's character.
Isn't that some of the best movies
I know, but
that you get?
I'm with you because I like the movie, but people were uncomfortable watching it because of his the portraying of the character. Now, here's another one that
real quick, by the way, I forgot. Spike Lee did get nominated for Black Klansman, but he didn't win it. He should have won it for Black Klansman. That was a great movie.
Now, here's you could make a long list of Martin Scorsese snubs, because remember, he did not win for Best Picture till The Departed. Like Goodfellas, it did not resonate for Best Director or Best Picture. And the year that it was up for, I think Kevin Costner walked away with like the best movie, best actor for Dances with Wolves. But there's like the Val Kilmer one bugs me the most, and there'll be a lot of tributes to him. Man, he just had like banger after banger, and then he would have these subtle roles like Real Genius, and then he was in MacGruber, he played a villain, just like kind of a passing part, and you're like, that was pretty good. Well, even in the latest Top Gun,
sure,
you kind of
you warned me about that scene.
They kept it quiet for a long time that he was actually in the movie, because people are like, I don't think he can speak. And he was someone who was
such a good scene.
He was a knob in the original Top Gun, where you're like, screw that guy. I don't like him. And then you're like, at the end, you're like, okay. But then as they kept it quiet for the longest time that Kilmer was in Top Gun Maverick, and then he shows up, and it got dusty. He wasn't really acting. That was his current life. And Tom Cruise, because Tom Cruise, after the movie came out and people started asking about that scene, he's like, we really didn't have that scripted. We just played it because Val, that's his current state. And I had to play off of that. Yeah, it was like a goodbye.
And he did talk in that movie. He had that one very, very last line, which I didn't really know, because once again, like, not my generation of actors, so I don't really understand. Well, I just don't know a lot of his movies and what he was going through or whatever. But you could kind of tell when he'd have been right up your alley when he spoke very softly, right? That it'd be really hard to act that out. Really, really, really. I mean, it was an emotional scene. It's funny. You bring up Val Kilmer, and I love those types of actors where it's like, oh my God, he's in this movie. Oh my God, is that Val Kilmer? Is he playing this role or whatever? Another guy like that I absolutely love, which is why I agree with you, because I haven't watched enough Val Kilmer movies. I do think I love him. Alan Rickman was the same way. I feel like Alan Rickman had a lot of those roles too, where you would be watching a movie, you're like, oh, he's in this movie as well. Like, that's great. Like, I think that, and I think my dad would probably, and maybe you can agree with this. It just seems like Val Kilmer was one of those actors, when you saw him that he was in a movie, you had a feeling that it was going to be a good movie.
Val Kilmer was just cool. That's the thing. And that day is like, he was the coolest guy in the room. Like, he showed up in a movie, and you're like, it's Val Kilmer. I'm in.
When you get introduced to him in Top Gun, like that first scene at the cocktail bar, he's dressed up, the slick back hair, tall dude, cocky. That's one of the best introductions to a semi-villain that you've seen, because immediately you hate the guy, but then you're like,
you want to be his friend.
But no, you can tell he's a damn good fighter pilot. Immediately you're like, oh, that guy probably rocks as a Top Gun dude.
Hey, on a different note, speaking of actors, I don't think this has been brought up enough, but these are two shows that are really popular now: White Lotus and Gemstones.
Have you watched
Gemstones?
I'm not I don't watch too many TV shows, so I'm kind of behind.
I'm gonna rock the tropical shirt this summer in tribute to White Lotus. But the fact that Walter Goggins is in both,
he's one of my favorites.
Key roles. That's pretty impressive, because those are two of the most popular shows going right now.
That Amazon show where it's in the future and they have he doesn't have the nose. He's good in that too. Vice Principals, he makes that come to life with what's his name, Danny McBride. So obviously that's the tie-in with Righteous Gemstones.
That reminds me.
He can act, but he's hilarious.
It reminds me of when Josh Brolin was in the two biggest summer movies of the year, in Endgame and in Deadpool.
Yeah.
And then in Deadpool 2, they kept calling him Thanos, like every other scene in that movie. It was incredible. Good for Walter Goggins, man. That's how you know you're putting a year together. When you get it's always incredible to get like one big role like on TV. Where in TV, I feel like it's a little bit more impressive, because TV roles that you really get remembered for, at least in this day and age, aren't. I think it's picking up a little bit. But like as of recently, it hasn't been as common in movies to be remembered for roles in TV. To get two of them at the same time, that's incredible.
Sean writes in his top 5 Val Kilmer movies: Thunderheart, Real Genius, Top Gun, number 2, Heat.
Heat gets forgotten. Heat's a damn good movie.
And then, thank you, number 1, Tombstone, which he also adds when he argues with Johnny Ringo in Latin. Look it up. What they said, pretty cold-blooded and cool.
I love the saying because Elizabeth
Anybody in here know Latin?
No.
You grew up in the church?
I did. No, I don't.
I usually was taking a nap.
They gave
during
Latin
this.
classes where I went to high school. Did they give Latin classes where you went to high school?
No, but
Okay.
at Catholic school, I thought maybe, but no.
Yeah, didn't take Latin. It
Really had
would have been a nice little
really
niche skill to
conquered
have.
English.
Yeah, me too. I'm not good at speaking English either. You should hear my Chicago accent. I need to take more.
You're in
English
the right
classes.
profession.
Zach writes into the Equitable Bank inbox on Val Kilmer. He made a great Batman.
He wasn't terrible.
I haven't seen his Batman. I should go back. Is it
Batman Forever?
Mm-hmm.
Mid-90s.
Is it
Great U2 song in this?
Well, okay, so the thing about his role as Batman, he took over after Michael Keaton.
So that I was going to say was
And-
he pre or post Keaton? Because
it was post.
Yeah.
well,
that's
and also
tough.
remember, didn't Tim Burton leave with Keaton?
Yeah.
So
Pretty sure, yeah.
his Batman Forever,
He wasn't set up to succeed.
he couldn't put, like Christian Bale, I think, outside of Adam West, the OG of being Batman, I think Christian Bale is the best Batman.
Mhm.
But the one thing with Val Kilmer, when he played Batman, he wasn't able to put like his stamp on the character.
Yeah.
So it was,
The villains are more the selling point for that movie
Yeah.
because you had Nicole Kidman, Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Good point.
and then I wasn't a huge fan of Clooney. I think it was a mistake that we
I
had
didn't
Ben
like-
Affleck played 3 different
I didn't like.
movies of
I
Batman.
wasn't the biggest fan of Clooney's Batman.
He
I
had
don't.
3?
I wasn't the
I
biggest
blocked
fan
them
of
all out.
Affleck's Batman. I obviously Christian Bale is an incredible Batman. I do really like.
Incredible, he's the best.
I think. Well, here's my thing. We
It's the
got to
best.
we got to see what happens with Robert Pattinson because I loved Robert Pattinson's performance in his Batman. And another thing too is that with these new Batmans that they're making in this DC universe, they're really honing into him being the greatest detective alive. And I really like that aspect
That was
of
Kojak.
Batman. And I don't think they did that enough in the Bale Batmans, but that's more so to do with writing. I'll tell you this. Kevin Conroy, rest in peace. He was the cartoon voice of Batman, and they did all of those. And I mean, there's so many, cartoon movies of Batman. The Killing Joke is an incredible one. Under the Hood, Death in the Family. He is widely considered as, I mean, he's not an actor, right? But his voicing of Batman is absolutely incredible. I think Bale 1, Conroy 2, then I would go Pattinson, then I would go, Keaton, and then Clooney for me.
I
haven't seen Val Kilmer's Batman.
So I'm with you on Pattinson. I'm going to wait because
You got to wait. We got to see a couple movies here.
what was it? 2022 was the Batman that he was in.
Yes.
Now, Michael Keaton. Okay, so right now I would go Bale, Keaton. I didn't, and then Pattinson because the Batman in 22 was okay. It was
I loved it.
Jesus, it was dark. And then I would go Affleck. Now remember, Adam West doesn't get involved in this conversation because he's a standalone.
I think with Affleck, he didn't get any
Doug
favors
agrees with
done
me.
though with like what movies they made for him. Like the movies that he was in, like I don't think it was fully his fault.
No, I
Like,
think it was his
Batman
fault.
v Superman. I
disagree.
don't know.
He
Some
tried.
of these
He tried way too hard in his role as Batman.
But he didn't get like a Batman movie though. Like he didn't get his own Batman. And they did the whole like they already fast forward him to like he's an old 40-year-old, like he's beat up Batman. So it already made him look like pretty weak. And then like they had to soup him up with all this different technology and gear and everything like that. And they made him a little darker. But the problem is that like it's like making a pig uglier. Like the pig is already ugly. Like how much darker can you make Batman?
You are
Batman
a pig expert on the show.
Like Batman already
liked
is an
Homie.
incredibly dark character.
Homie was beautiful.
Pigs are generally ugly animals.
Homie brought in the girls.
I do think
you should try it. Get a pig.
Maybe I should get
You
a
had to
pet
get a
pig.
potbelly pig. We
Yeah, it
didn't
has
have a
to-
full-size pig at 26th and W.
Yeah.
We had a potbelly pig.
Mhm.
But
Homie was fantastic.
I don't know. I don't think
Tasted
Affleck
great.
Affleck wasn't done any favors. I'll say this.
I did tell that story at home.
I would love to have.
Did he take it to East Campus?
I've never had fresh bacon before.
Dude,
I would love to have fresh bacon.
Dude, I was like E.T. I was like carrying this potbelly pig across East Campus to go to the vet center, and people are like staring, and I'm like,
Nice pig, Doc.
How long did you own a pig for?
Well, until the city of Lincoln found out. We had so
What?
you do stupid stuff when you're in college.
I mean, this sounds fun. It doesn't sound really stupid.
So one day, you don't know this, but I've relayed this on air. I lived at 26th and W with 7 other guys who all turned 21 within about 3 months of each other.
Awesome. Upstanding group of gentlemen.
Yeah.
Jeez. So one of our roommates, who probably is listening, who runs a rather large company. It's amazing that he runs a large company in this town that people don't know about his 21st year on earth.
We all
he
have
did.
passed.
So he came home from class and he had the Daily Nebraska and he saw an ad that there was a potbelly pig for $100. And so he reached out to the guy here in Omaha. So we hopped in 2 cars in really the middle of the night on a Monday night on a whim.
Nice.
We were able to scrounge up $100 together and we drove to Omaha and we met him like in this obscure place. Like you don't even think about it when you're 21. You're like, yeah,
probably a shadier place. Could go and pick up a potbelly pig.
Roll
them up.
Go into a dark place. It ain't gonna matter. We're not gonna get jumped or anything because we got 8 guys. So we bought this potbelly pig and we brought him back to Lincoln, not knowing how to take care of one because we just thought it was cool.
No internet too, so you couldn't.
We didn't know like what it ate. So we fed it people food for its first like 3 weeks with us until somebody was like, hey, you can't do that because the pig's going to die. But the pig was in heat. There were a lot of the things the pig did that I was very unaware of as a pig owner. But
part pig owner.
But the pig did amuse people that would come over for the party. He was like the party animal.
Sure.
It drank beer.
It's like bacon,
literally,
Varsity
the
Blues.
party animal, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. But the pig screwed us because one day we let the pig out and it ran across the street.
Oh, no.
And if anybody remembers the old days back in the 90s at 26th and W, there was a precinct for the Lincoln Police Department. It was right there by Mum's Liquor and the McDonald's in the parking lot.
It ran to the cops?
It ran, and so a cop saw it.
What a snitch.
And we think that's when we got a knock on the door that we could not own that pig in city limits. And so I wasn't home, but one of our roommates denied it. He was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so the cop was like, hey, I'm not screwing with you. You guys got to, you can't have them in city limits.
Our roommate's girlfriends.
And so we had to take care of the pig because the pig, I think, was sick. And so I had to take it to East Campus. I walked across East Campus holding the pig like from the movie E.T.
Yeah.
Okay. So they gave the pig shots and then I got scolded for feeding it beer and everything else.
Was it good beer at least is what I would ask.
Well, so we would let
Was it a fat potbelly pig?
It was kind of fat. We didn't exercise it much.
You didn't take it on walks or anything like that?
No.
Ozempic wasn't around at the time?
No, because the pig didn't want to do much. Like we wanted it to run, like perform, and it wouldn't.
Yeah.
We were not really in any.
You weren't ready to be pig owners.
Or fathers or anything at that point.
Sure. Anything other than single bachelors who like to drink beer.
So after a while, after it performed for parties and Hump the Wall and things like that, and people got amused, and it was under the weather, and then we just decided that we needed to give it to somebody that could take care of it.
Yeah.
So I made arrangements to give it to the people on East Campus, and I told my roommates that it had to be sacrificed. And so we served ham one night.
Oh my!
And I said, while we were eating it, I said, man, rest in peace, homie. So I've never, never had a potbelly pig since. I was an owner.
Party for the pig.
I was a 1/8 owner of a potbelly pig before potbelly pigs became popular.
I was a half owner of a dog in my apartment for 2 weeks until they found out that we had a dog and we weren't allowed to have a dog, and so we had to
give it back
to the Humane Society. Unfortunately, his name was Stanley. We named him after former Toronto Raptors small forward Stanley Johnson. That was
like most people do.
Yes,
and not Stanley Roberts.
No. Stanley Johnson. Stanley after Stanley Johnson.
A couple of more here on Val Kilmer. Old man Doug, Tombstone, definitely his best. Underrated, The Saint, and you got Elizabeth Shue.
Hell yes. Cocktail, Just my awakening.
Chris says Val on Prime is a must-watch. The documentary on his life.
Okay. I'll go and tune into that. That sounds good.
Fascinating.
I have to watch Tombstone.
Fascinating life.
I will watch Tombstone.
Ooh.
You need to watch his catalog.
I will have to. No, I do.
Real Genius is a nice weekday movie.
I know this is a really good actor that a lot of people care about. It's just one of those things where unfortunately I have not fallen into his movies. But Tombstone is number one on the list. I mean, if you guys like it so much, I'll go ahead and watch it.
You should watch with the roommate. That's how good it is.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk what happened in Lincoln yesterday. Nebraska and Creighton. Creighton won their 17th straight midweek game as Nebraska lost. But was it more about Nebraska or Creighton in the rather entertaining game yesterday?
Yeah.
Between the Jays and the Huskers, the first of 3 this year. We'll touch on that. A little bit later, John Walker stops by. We'll talk some hoopage. And Brandon Vogel, we'll talk some life. He joins us all in the last hour on 1620 The Zone. Hey, as we get into this season, last night we had a couple of storms in the area overnight. And you're thinking, all right, is my roof going to last? It's the most valuable asset. Protects you. And you know what? Who will protect you and do it the right way? My good friends over at Moose Roofing. Pat and the whole crew. Met Randy yesterday. They are getting ready for their busy season. And you know by now, the Moose knows roofing, and they know roofing. They are focused on Omaha. They're right here. They're focused on restoration. They're focused on gutters. They're also focused on roofing systems. They'll walk you through the entire process, residential roofing, repair service, also commercial roofing. They don't just show up and put a roof on. They walked me through the whole process yesterday, and it really is amazing because they care about you. They just don't look at your roof and go, you got some shingles that are loose. I bet you need a whole new roof. They're going to go to work for you. They're going to sit down with you and not just a flyby. Remember, they're an Omaha company that is coming up on 30 years serving Southwest Iowa all the way to the Lincoln area. They're going to sit down. They're going to get to know you and your home. They're going to review all the key elements of your roofing system, which includes ventilation. You may not know of their great science that they put in the ventilation system that's going to achieve maximum net-free area. They're going to show you how to fortify your roof before that next major storm occurs, and proper and preventive maintenance that can save you thousands on the lifetime. Moose Roofing goes to work for you. They get to know you, and then they want to protect you with roof and siding. Plus, as you navigate the whole process and your insurance agent is like, I don't know, Moose Roofing has a whole department. They're going to help you navigate that increasingly difficult insurance claim process. It's the whole gamut at Moose Roofing. They are here for you. They've put 15,000 plus roofs around the area. So listen to what the customers say and then do it. Moose Roofing. Contact them online today at mooseroofing.com. All right, Flaky Jake, adding to the Val Kilmer list. Felon. So it's an underrated movie. I know of it, have never seen it. A loving husband and a father finds his life transformed into a waking nightmare when he accidentally kills a burglar. We all. Sentenced to spend 3 years in a maximum security prison, the man suffers the wrath of a sadistic head guard and is forced to share a cell with notorious mass murderer. In order to survive the ordeal and get back to his family, he will have to become the toughest felon of all and score a touchdown. It is Felon meets Longest Yard. Man, with a goatee, Val Kilmer in this movie does look like a BA.
Yeah. What's it called again? Felon?
That'd be Felon. Old man Doug has a response to you never sing Tombstone.
Yeah.
I need to have some speaks with your parents. I've lost a little respect for you knowing you haven't seen Tombstone. This is exactly what is wrong with Gen Z and X. The next thing you know, you're going to tell me is that you haven't seen Heartbreak Ridge and other Clint Eastwood movies.
Or Any Which Way But Loose.
Please restore my faith in today's youth. You better rattle off your favorite Clint Eastwood movie or Doug's going to have some speaks.
I'm sure that I've watched Clint. I don't have one off the top of my head.
Just start naming movies from the 70s.
I didn't really watch movies from the 70s.
Any Which Way When Lucy has a buddy.
Let me tell you my relationship with movies, okay? My relationship with movies wasn't necessarily watching the old ones. My dad and I, every Friday after school, would go to a movie. That's what we did.
That counts.
We went to the back of the movie theater because he had to do work during the movie and he didn't want to bother people. So we sat in the top right corner, every single movie. We watched movies. So we watched a lot of like comedies and actions, like all the Fast and Furiouses, Hot Tub Time Machine, The Hangover. Like we watched all those like kind of like mid to crap 2000s movies. I am very, very
mid to crap.
Very well versed in all of that. In terms of like the classic 90s and 2000s and 80s and 70s movies, I'm hit or miss. I might have seen it, might have not seen it.
It was on AMC.
I love movies.
See, this is how you would appease Doug. You'd say, you know what? I wish I was born back in the late 70s.
Yeah, I wish.
Because I would have gone to Any Which Way You Can. And I would have like loved me some Right Turn Clyde. That's what you have to say.
I'll just say this. I wish I was born in the 70s because, number one, no cell phones and just being able to kind of do whatever the heck you want, whenever the heck you wanted to do it. That would have been
NBA
fun.
coach's wardrobe.
I was born in the 70s.
It sounds like you guys like had a lot of fun and did a lot of things that today would be considered incredibly dangerous, but you read it back to us and it sounds so much fun. I love the fact that not everybody was a helicopter parent. And even worse, we've gotten back. We've upgraded from helicopter parents to helicopter people. Everybody's a helicopter person. Everybody is in everybody's business thinking they know how to run your life better than
our
other
generation
people.
only did helicoptering.
And then striking down Taylor Martinez's dad. Go ahead.
And then I would have absolutely loved to like have been in my 10, 11, 12 and then my teens during the Magic and Larry era. That would have been absolutely awesome. And then to be in my 20s during the Bulls 6-peat.
You could have bought tickets, gone to the stadium.
That would have been awesome. I wish I was born in the 70s. It's a fact.
Rest in peace, Johnny Redker.
I don't remember much about the 70s. I was in the learning curve in the 70s.
I would have enjoyed it.
So yesterday, Nebraska, I said yesterday, it's a must-win for Nebraska. It's a letdown that Nebraska lost to Creighton. First and foremost, it sucked that the weather made it at 2:30. Now, they could have played at 6. I don't think it rained until later in Lincoln. So they could have played, but they wanted to make sure they got the game in. So they moved it up to 2:30. The crowd was not as large as it was probably going to be for the first meeting between Nebraska and Creighton. Tell you what, there is one sport that is great for radio, and that is baseball. Like it is your summertime companion with old Denny and Fred. Okay,
that's right, Gary,
or Pat and Ron, and now So. Yesterday we had dueling radio broadcasts, and kudos. I enjoyed our guys, John and Connor. I enjoyed Ben and Nick. It was baseball on the radio because when you're driving around, you don't necessarily have Big Ten Plus brought up so that you can hear that while you're driving around.
But the radio's still there for you.
I thoroughly enjoyed the baseball on the radio from our guys and those guys, which 3/4 of them actually kind of are our guys.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, Ben.
That game was over in the top of the first inning yesterday. I hate to disappoint you. I know Nebraska came back and tied it, but you know what? It's what you do on the front, what you do on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I've been telling you guys, And it's going to be a weird, awkward success story of Creighton baseball in 2025.
Yeah.
So yesterday to me, and yeah, it's a letdown. The Nebraska, after winning 2 of 3 against Oregon State, was behind right away 3-0. Granted, they came back and tied it at 3, but they were all over the map. But to keep that momentum, they couldn't come out, and before they came to the plate in the bottom of the first, be down 3-0. And the way that it happened, where you were walking everybody and their mama.
Yeah.
Okay. It just wasn't a good top of the first. But that's a really good Creighton team. Yesterday, to me, was more about Creighton than it was about Nebraska. I'm telling you, I've said this now for 2 weeks after seeing him in person, because I didn't have the ability to travel all over God's green earth to watch Creighton in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I really like this Creighton team. They're an older team. They're 1 through 9. They don't have many holes in their lineup. Now, they're a banger in the midweek. They're the 2 J's. And last year, they were great in the midweek, awful on the weekend, didn't make the Big East tournament. Yesterday, to me, was more about Creighton than it was about Nebraska.
Especially in those late innings, right? Creighton got the big hits, the 9th inning to add insurance. They got the big outs, 6-5, 2 on, 1 out. After that Cale Frost double, Langrell was able to step up and get out of the inning with a strikeout and then a fly out. Like, they were able to come through in the clutch. And, you know, I was listening to Connor and John on the radio.
John Bishop, voice of the Jays.
Co-worker,
by the way,
yours.
anytime
Yes.
that Creighton beats Nebraska, he gets salty on Twitter.
But he's one of them.
Was he like that in November?
I don't think he was.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Oh,
I was.
So when you win, you can be salty.
I went to bed early that night.
I wonder how many Nebraska fans Bishop has blocked or muted.
You guys used to do
I
Husker
don't
baseball together.
know.
I was actually thinking about
I don't
this
know.
yesterday.
He's still a graduate from there. He still cares about them. I don't think it's that many.
Bro, he's very good at what he does, but he lives in Lincoln and has a Jays flag outside of his house. Stop.
And a license plate.
He's got a
references.
Jays flag outside of his
Why
house.
wouldn't he? He's the voice of Creighton.
Well, no,
He
I
should
know.
be.
I didn't know that. That
should be.
No, I'm not. Oh, I'm not going against him.
I wonder,
because
because it is kind of fun. Like when Creighton does beat Nebraska, like in basketball or baseball, people will get at Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Not some of them might not know his backstory. That he's a graduate from Nebraska, and him and I both did Nebraska baseball. We were the original voices of the College World Series. Just want everybody to know that.
Some great teams.
But I'm going to ask him today. I'm going to ask him how many Nebraska fans, because he was being very Johnish,
Yeah.
a little sarcastic.
Yeah, I love it.
But I wonder how many mutes or blocks he has.
But regardless, just back to it. It was a really good call from John and what's his name?
That
Connor.
would be Connor Happer.
Connor Happer.
Oh,
your coworker,
God.
your friend.
I texted him after the game.
Yeah.
the guy that's with Otson on
The guy
radio.
that you have a rivalry with.
Well, I don't know if I have a rivalry with him because he actually had a great call of the game, and I texted him afterwards, and I go, "Hey, Connor, great call. That was a very nice call from you. I
Forgot
enjoyed
his name.
listening to your
Wait till he
game."
comes into the
No,
crossover.
He didn't
forget
call me
everybody's
Connor. He
name.
called me Chris.
We already talked
John was
about
doing that game with.
No, I did not forget
God.
his name.
Was
I
it
clearly
Jake?
understood
Was Jake
that Connor
Ryan
Happer
Jake,
was there on
Jake
the call.
was doing the softball game.
Chris Hobson.
My God, was it? Well,
Connor is sieging.
Have you ever seen that before, by the way, where Price Bender came into the game in the 9th inning and he threw 2 strikes and he got to an 0-2 count, and then they brought in a different pitcher?
Welcome to midweek baseball.
Have you seen that before? I mean,
what was it? 15.
The guy threw
11?
Oh damn!
11 pitchers yesterday.
Yeah, well, Bishop tweeted out the over-under was 10 for how many pitchers were going to be used, and I was so close to tweeting out, Daddy needs another reliever.
Too soon?
It's not too soon. It's a great joke, but like I've never seen that before. The guy had like I have seen the 2 pitches, 2-0.
Yeah.
Hey, we got another guy up in the bullpen. No big deal. We'll bring someone in. 2 pitches and then 0-2 is something that I have not seen another pitcher be brought in to take warm-up pitches
Let
me
introduce you to Creighton baseball in the midweek.
That was crazy. And then they ended up striking out the guy, but then it went by and they ended up having a big 9th inning. But I totally agree with you. And I love this quote from Ed Service post-game. And I think this kind of embodies why Creighton has dominated this series. They've won 12 out of the last 14 meetings, right, as of late. He goes, they know we're kind of the underdogs coming in here, no matter what the records are. They want to prove to people that, hey, we've got a good club. I think they play with the chip on their shoulder. I'm a huge fan of that. I think that is the exact embodiment why Creighton, when they play these games, and this has kind of been the trend the last couple of times these teams have played, that it's not necessarily about Nebraska being bad or Nebraska being terrible. It's just in the bigger moments, Creighton ends up being successful. Creighton ends up getting the big hits. Creighton ends up getting the big strikeouts. They make the big plays. And I think when you're talking about it's, Nebraska's in the Big Ten and Creighton's in the Big East, and there's a disparity in conferences. But like you said, Creighton is a very good team, and you like their lineup. After listening to yesterday's game, I mean, I was just very impressed with their poise and their ability to come through when the matters, meant the most. And in this series, and especially last year with the whole bases loaded delay, you come back, you replay the game, and Creighton ends up getting out of that jam. It's like it just seems when these two teams play, the Blue Jays come out big, and Nebraska just isn't able to get that massive play.
It was a good baseball game yesterday.
It was a good baseball game.
It was, there's a lot of times people will say, well, Nebraska didn't show up. They don't take the game seriously. Yeah.
They showed
Will
up.
Bolt takes the game seriously. Fortunately, he's lost 7 of 9 against Creighton, and that's a good Creighton team. So that was more about Creighton yesterday, but falling behind 3-0 did not help. But back to the Ed Service thing. I am here for this because it's a coach in waiting. It's just a popular thing at the Hilltop, right?
Everybody does.
So
that.
in baseball, Mark Kingston, really good hire in the offseason. This is Ed's last year. He's going to retire. But it's the awkwardness of, why didn't you just fire Ed last year? Just get rid of him.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't let him have a swan song. And I'm not saying that it's like, hey, I'm gonna stick it to you. But I'm happy for Ed because it could be a little bit awkward if Creighton, and they're 17-7, they got a big series with UConn this weekend. They end up being really, really good. Like NCAA, we're going to be back in the tournament, which Creighton hasn't been for a bit. And it's like, okay, he won't do this because he's too classy. Or maybe he will. He'll show that side. Like there's that little teeny bit that's inside Ed. He'll make a victory lap at the Chuck with the finger in the air. See, I told you. But I'm happy that they're having success. It's a good I knew this, when we had him on.
Yeah.
In the discussion we were having. They're a good team. Okay. They have a lot of returning pieces and they're a veteran lineup, and they had every answer yesterday, but you can't fall behind. I don't care if you tie the game at 3. It already sets you off, so it screws up your pitching. Worthley and Christo pitched well, but like you were alluding to, when they need a hit, they got a hit. And now, big game tonight for Nebraska. I mean, they come to Omaha, and that's a big deal for Omaha. They play at 6. The weather, I think I will announce that the first pitch temp will be 54. I'll be there for, I don't know that I'm going to do 3 hours of stand-up comedy on the mic tonight for Omaha baseball. But
too cold to find out.
We'll see. It depends on who's there. Like,
sure,
there could be some, like important people, and so they don't get my shtick. But it's a big deal for Omaha because, it worked out in the schedule, and Will and Evan have a good relationship. And it's great that Nebraska, in the year that they only play downtown once, that they come and play at Tal Anderson, and this game got postponed and they found a date that was open. It's a big deal for Omaha because Nebraska is playing there. Just like when Nebraska softball played Omaha last week at Connie Clausen, they had a record crowd of over 1,500. Yeah. There'll be a good crowd there tonight. Man. And Omaha's fighting it a little bit. They did come off a weekend in which they swept Northern Colorado. Nebraska better be ready to play. Well, they better be ready to play tonight.
So talking about momentum, right? Coming off of that Oregon State series, like a very easy way to lose some of that momentum heading into that Creighton game is to give up 3 runs in the first inning, and then immediately you're kind of put in the hole with the bullpen. Right now, you have 9 innings to figure it out from there. But when you give up those runs, it's you're battling back. You're not really you're not able to ride that wave as much as you wanted to, right? But I think for anyone who watched or listened to the game yesterday, you're absolutely right. It wasn't necessarily all about Nebraska losing, as Creighton did play one hell of a game yesterday, and it was a good baseball game where you can kind of hang your hat on that and be like, hey, that's baseball. We played, we tried, they were the better team. And I don't think I don't mean this any offense to Omaha, but like if Nebraska were to lose this game tonight, I mean, that would kill any momentum that you build, in my opinion, over the weekend against Oregon
But there's
State.
no I don't think with this team there's just no momentum. They don't stack stuff. They're very frustrating. They're capable, but then they're not. They're capable, then they're not. Like if they win tonight, it really is not like, oh my God, they got the momentum coming back. They found a way to win a baseball game against a team that's trying to find a way to grab momentum themselves. It's at this point with Nebraska baseball, and it's just try and find a way to get some May magic in the Big O. But first, you got to make sure you're inside of the Big Ten tournament. Remember, the format this year is a little bit wonky, where I need to look into further if it would be more beneficial in the old format to go on a run when you have to go on a run to make the tournament, or in the new format that they have where you have 4 teams playing 3 games against each other.
Yeah, with the pods and everything like that. Now, are those pods, they're just based on seeding, right? There's nothing, it's just based on where you are in the standings, or is it like those 4 different? Okay. I didn't know if there was any other.
That.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be weird, just kind of like it was weird for Big Ten basketball in terms of that regard. But I do like your point in terms of.
Can you imagine if Nebraska baseball? Well, it would. I mean,
that would sting.
You would have you, me, and Dupree sitting in the stands downtown. If Nebraska, maybe this would be a way for men's sports at Nebraska to wrap up the year that are not wrestling, or football. Football went to a bowl game.
Yeah,
is men's basketball and baseball doesn't make their conference tournament.
That'd be rough.
Huh.
That'd be low. That'd be a really low bar.
Just at this point, just find a way on the weekends to win the weekend. Just get into the Big Ten tournament, and then who knows what happens.
Just one of those.
I've lowered the bar. The bar just hit the floor.
Isn't it kind of funny though? There is a little bit of a similarity between Nebraska basketball and Nebraska baseball in terms of the highs being really high. You know, Nebraska basketball beat UCLA, they beat Illinois, they beat Oregon. You're like, man, they can beat top teams. You look at baseball, they've beaten Vanderbilt. They beat Oregon State, a top 5 team twice. Now, I know
the starting point, I know, the expectation for Nebraska
very
baseball
different.
Much higher.
Much higher. Very, very different. You're right in that regard. But in terms of what the season has entailed, the highs being very high, the lows being very low, and now we're standing at a point midway through the season where there's a possibility that they might not even make their conference tournament. There's the similarities there are slightly uncanny, but expectations were so different for both teams heading into the year.
All right, John Walker and Brandon Vogel still to come. We'll get into John Butler. Spoke yesterday. Let's call him quirky.
I think all 3 of them, Mike Eckler, Dana Holgerson, and John Butler, all have their little things, all have their little quirks.
When we come back with the new defense compared to the old defense, I think there is a significant difference between John Butler and Tony White. I will tell you about that. Plus, we will praise that the torpedo bat is the best thing that's happened to baseball in a long time. Everybody's talking about it. They're talking baseball nationally. It's not about the Dodgers and the Padres are combined 13-0, or the California teams combined are 21-2. They're talking about the torpedo bat.
It's good for baseball when people are talking about baseball.
All right, we'll come back with more. It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Baseball is officially back, in case you didn't know, and you can make every game day more exciting with Underdog, just like me, huh? That'll get you going. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, I didn't, but you can with Underdog. To play, choose whether a player goes higher or lower. What other stats? Strikeouts, home runs, hits, more. They got everything. Fantasy numbers, total outs for a pitcher. You get the idea. So you don't want to just play with baseball. Well, you can create entries with all baseball picks if that's you, or you can mix and match across the other sports. Hey, if you had taken Joker to score over on his points last night, you won that. See, this week on Underdog, though, I'm still digging in at the first full week of Major League Baseball and seeing what we can come up with. But Joker's 61 points makes me think I really should focus a little more attention on the NBA. Either way, I can do one or the other, or I can do both. I'll let you know a little secret. I'm going to do both. And here's how you can do it as well. Download the Underdog app and sign up now using promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in at all the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Way too dramatic. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, Stu Manji, great follow on Twitter, who is a big baseball fan, by the way. We always reference him during football season, but E tweets at Gary Sharp 1620. Will is 5-10 versus Omaha and Creighton. Doesn't have to be about Nebraska, not the other team at some point. Yes, I would say of the 15 games, I'll take out yesterday. That was more about Creighton to me.
I agree.
But that is not a good trend against your in-state teams that you are playing. It's a very frustrating team right now that is capable but can't get it done for a variety of reasons. They are not able to get everything going at the same time. Like, if Drew Christo is struggling but the team is winning, you're like, don't worry about it. Drew Christo is pitching really well, and the team is struggling to stack victories. But we'll circle back to this. I said the first 15 days of April where they play 10 games and they've got some bangers of RPI abilities, but they're the kind of team that loses a good baseball game yesterday. Maybe they win tonight. Maybe they lose because you have a winner and a loser. They win the weekend against Rutgers and then they beat a really good KU team, and you're like, okay. And then they drop a game that they should, and you're like, that's what this season is. All right, John Walker a little bit later. You were in Lincoln yesterday when John Butler spoke.
Yes.
Here's what the difference is, in my opinion, and you can tell me if I'm off on this on your read of his discussion yesterday, now that he is the defensive coordinator. The knock on Tony White with his defense was at points there would be, hey, just go make a play. Wouldn't necessarily, okay, it's third down, this is what we're going to throw at them. It was, it's third down, guys. One of you 11 or two of you 11, go make a play. That's what I saw as the season kind of unfolded.
Yeah.
Fair or not, that's just my observation. I could be completely off. I know it wasn't, hey, this time, hey, number 9, go make a play. That's what we're doing on third down.
Yeah.
Break.
Yeah.
But when I listen to John Butler talk defense, and I think this is his experience of being in the NFL to now 2 years here, I think it'll be more of a defense that is a concept schemes. There will be guys that got to make plays, but it will not be an individual that's got to make plays because they're trying to find, like on the defensive backfield, they just want to find 5 to 6 guys that are good enough to be on the field on a regular basis, but it'll be more scheme and coverage this year.
He talked about that defense.
Or scheme and concept, not scheme and coverage,
sure,
scheme and concept.
Sure, yeah, I understand. He talks about that defense as if it's one person, in my opinion. He like, it's 11 guys acting as one, right? I think Tony oftentimes, did talk about players, did talk about, hey, he looks really good. Hey, he could take the next step. Hey, he's been making plays. He's been running around. We just got to get these guys to do a certain thing. John Butler talks about the defense as if it's one brain, it is one whole, it is all together, and that they need to, and there's a lot of talk of like the implementation of their, just like you said, their schemes and their concepts. A lot of one thing that stood out to me when he was talking about spring ball is like, well, we're working on first down. We're working on second down. That's what we're going to work on here. Then when we're going to get into the back end third down stuff. And then he talks a lot about, now, the media knows not to really ask him, hey, what specifically are these schemes and coverages? But more so than a lot of coordinators that I've seen talk and coaches that I've seen talk, he talks a lot about the uniqueness of packages and certain strategies they're going to use, and how yesterday he goes, we're going to use a lot of stuff that is common, that plenty of teams use on third down, but we're also, and he was kind of referring to him and Phil Snow, we're going to use some of our own stuff. We're going to make some of our own stuff. And so it is really a forward thinking X's and O's, all congruent together defensive, or at least that's how he talks about it. It's not necessarily what you said, like, hey, we got to see, Jamari Butler's got to step up and Jamari's got to make this play, or James Williams has to step up and James has to make this play. It is definitely a, hey, we're all together here. We're all competing together and we're all trying to be a good defense. And it is a bit of a shift from where Tony White was in terms of his defense.
It's also, in my opinion, I'll explain this a little bit later, a big shift from how the head coach looks at football and his defensive coordinator looks at football, and how somehow they mesh together, which means Phil Snow might be the most important guy on the defensive side.
I think that's a good call.
2 in the books, 2 to go, halftime of the week on Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Hey, Ed Cooley against Fred Hoiberg at 8:30 tonight in the Crown quarterfinal.
It's a riveting matchup.
Kind of an interesting matchup.
It is an interesting. It's two well-known coaches who've had success in the past, who both probably it hasn't turned out the way they would prefer to turn out in their current stops, but they're both too good and too weathered for you to be like, no, we got to get rid of them, so they have a longer leash than most.
This will be an interesting night for Fred, because I think Cooley, their roster is a little bit decimated. He'll get into his bag. Like, they were throwing all kinds of junk defenses at Washington State. I think this game will be like ugly. I don't think it'll be super free flowing.
8:30.
I got a question for you.
But I want Bryce Williams to throw up a 50-burger and not care.
In the last 2 months of Nebraska basketball, when have those games been considered pretty? I mean, I
thought I would have asked her out the Nebraska-Ohio State game in Columbus.
Okay.
The result wasn't, like you would get.
Sure.
You wouldn't get the kiss at the door.
You get a nice meal.
Yeah, you get like a slap on the back and say, "Hey, you know what? Had fun.
Good game."
But I enjoyed that game.
A slap on the ass.
You would do it again. You would try it again, but you'd hope the result turns out differently.
I prefer Summit League type basketball compared to Nebraska UCLA in January basketball, where
it's fun.
You basically are playing basketball with boxing gloves.
Okay, I'll concede. Sure, the double overtime game that both teams got over 100 points, that was fun basketball.
Because it was kind of free-flowing.
It was kind of free-flowing.
And my guy was trying for a 50-burger.
Okay, so let's remove that game. Let's get rid of that one outlier.
Now you're making it difficult.
Let me ask you again. In the last 2 months, when has Nebraska basketball been considered pretty? And I could even go, if I really wanted to get granular, giving up 16 or 19 points, whatever they gave up, I don't think that's necessarily pretty defense either.
I mean, some might say last night that the Timberwolves only given up 139 in 2 overtimes. They had good defense.
That's pretty good.
I mean, in the NBA, that's actually quite stellar defense. When you give the team 10 minutes more of play and you only give up 140 and one of the players had 61 points, that's pretty damn good defense. But that's different. Are we really comparing Big Ten basketball to the NBA?
Yes, we are.
Probably more during the lockout season.
Yes, we are. Who would play the role of Buzz Williams in the NBA? 402-951-1620.
Probably Billy Donovan.
Hey, one thing that did happen yesterday while the Huskers were gallivanting out in Vegas. This is what sucks about the portal and rosters is players that you are like, okay, they're coming back. They have to go public and say they are coming back. Like Connor Essegian made a video yesterday. Was there any doubt that he was not coming back?
No.
Okay, so he just did it to, like, before we announced Price Sanford, I want to get in that I'm coming back so I get some love, and I'm being a little sarcastic here. But he made the video, and I was like, "Oh, I thought he was coming back." Was somebody tampering with Connor Essegian? He had 17 in the crown, and they're like, "Hey, you could be playing in the Big East." Oh no, I've got a video.
Price Sanford
filmed in my room.
Price Sanford definitely essentially does what Connor Essegian does. So it's kind of, there could be the curiosity of like, oh, they're bringing in a guy who fills a role that you're currently filling. Are you still going to be on the team? And then Connor had to kind of remind casuals, hey, there can be 2 shooters on the floor at the same time in this offense. Like, we're going to be fine.
So you think he did it as a rivalry?
No, not as a rivalry. Just to get out there that, hey, like I'm going to coexist with Price Sanford.
I've beaten Creighton and Sanford hasn't. Which Husker are you going to choose?
Well,
choose your fighter.
Sanford beat him twice last season. So I think that probably Price might have the leg up on Connor in that regard.
Well, to be fair, there was one game that Connor was out there, but he really wasn't playing. He just happened to have a box score that was 0 for 11.
I think he was playing.
He got his steps in.
But he got a good bounce back.
Can I tell you something right
now?
Did Connor Essegian already get NIL money? Because those earrings that he was wearing in that video, they were popping. There were some popping earrings.
I didn't know he wore the earrings. How about that?
I don't know. Maybe he was pissed because Sanford is getting a lot of money.
Yeah, I think Connor probably is making a decent amount. And hey, if he continues to have 17-point second halves, he can add a little cheddar to the bank.
What's decent money for a guy that's going to return? And there is a thing about the year 2 jump as a transfer. He's not going to be on the level of Bryce Williams, but like I don't know. There's enough of a size of guys in their second year what they do under Fred. So there is that possibility, but he can't do it on his own. They've got to add pieces. Now Mast
they do
helps a ton, but they still need a point guard. They still need a 5. It would be nice to have a wing. It'd be nice to have double up on both of those, but you can't be that greedy. What do you think is good money for Connor Essegian in this day and age of just insane amount of money that's being shared amongst student athletes?
See, I don't mean to cop out here and give a non-answer, but it's like we really don't fully know on paper what everybody is making. Like, it is a lot of speculation in terms of couple 100,000 here, over $500,000 here. I mean, you saw there was an article yesterday that claimed that Donovan Dent's getting up to $3 million from UCLA. I think they're like, now Essegian, like, once again, I don't know if he signed a 1-year deal. I don't know if he signed a 2-year deal. If he had to re-up a deal this year, you could assume maybe he made more money because there's more money in the pool. So I don't really know what like good money exactly would be from my just point of view. Maybe anywhere from 250,000 to 350,000 could be a fair number for a guy like that, who mainly is a 3-point sharpshooter, who doesn't play a ton of defense, who's anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes, but plays a valuable role. But that's just from like, if he signed his deal this year, what we've seen with this year, with all the money that is in the pool, I think a guy like Connor Essegian is probably worth more than that, probably $250,000, $350,000 number. I think he'd be making more than that. But
would people be upset if Fred spent more to retain players this year than acquire players?
There would be. I think we would have to have some speaks if there was a lot of money being pumped into retaining a lot of this roster, considering the result that was this season, right? I do think that you have to put, because you're replacing a lot too. Like, you have to replace your 2 best players, right? And I can say confidently that I don't think that outside of Rink Mask, but Rink didn't play last season, that the guys who played this year are going to be able to fill the shoes that Bryce Williams has, that Bryce Williams is leaving. And they don't have a guy on that team that plays with the size and physicality that Juwan Gary does, or at least they don't have a guy on the team that's shown that to make me believe that they can fill the shoes that Juwan Gary is leaving. And so those 2 guys leaving, their archetype of the player that you need to replace them with is not cheap. I mean, to get it's always funny. Like, this is kind of turning into the NBA conversation, right? Because NBA teams have to go through the same thing. Getting an athletic 6'7" wing who can shoot from the outside, but then also get a bucket, is like the hardest player to find. Like, that is one of the most difficult types of players to acquire, and they often are the most expensive to get.
So I'll give you an example, because he's going to be on a Zoom with Nebraska tomorrow, and I've seen him play his entire career, 99 games at Omaha. So if anybody wants some information on Markel Sutton, I will tell you. So Kel was at Kansas State the other day. He liked Manhattan. Whatever they do with portal guys in Manhattan with Tang,
it works.
It does work. Kansas State got a lot of money for basketball, Jimmy. They got a lot of money down there for basketball.
That beef, smell of money.
Where does that money for basketball come?
Cows, lots of cows.
Is there?
Are you being serious?
Kind of. I mean, the feeder lots, and they make a lot of money out there in southwestern Kansas, western Kansas. They're very generous.
Has there been a known family? This is a serious question. Has there been like a known family over there in that Manhattan, Kansas area who's had a lot of money, who's been a top donor?
I mean, the Veneers and the Colberts are not Joey.
Yeah, I do know. I've met John.
Yeah,
I think John may have passed on.
Brian Doyle Murray lived there.
Okay, so
he didn't donate.
So I'm just walking you through because he has a Zoom with Nebraska tomorrow. So Markel was at Kansas State. He's going to be at LSU today. And people are like, oh, is he gonna what kind of shot does Nebraska have? I don't think Nebraska can afford him. I don't think Nebraska can afford him. And they would have to play and pay at a level that I just don't think Fred is comfortable doing. But it brings into a conversation. I had this with a non-Nebraska-based Division I head coach yesterday because I was inquiring about a job on his staff, not for me. He told me this. He goes, "Here's the situation," and he is at a basketball school. is there's a lot of discussion in the industry right now amongst coaches that are friends in revenue sharing of the piece of pie you're going to get as a basketball school, a basketball program, and a football school. He said, but a lot of schools are trying to figure out, and this is why they're hiring GMs, is do you spend your large pool of money on 1 to 2 difference makers, or do you spread it across 5 different players? So look at, like, let's use Nebraska for example. And this is why Nebraska's in this situation this year, is Nebraska elected to spend their money across a small amount of players instead of spreading it across 5 to 6 guys. And those 1 to 2 guys that they spent the most money on were not their best 1 to 2 guys. Yeah. So Coach told me this, and I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And he wouldn't tell me how they were divvying up their pool, but he said, you look, schools like you were mentioning, Dent, who was the player of the year in the Mountain West, goes to UCLA, and UCLA has got a lot of bag. Okay? Yeah. They might have a knob stopper as their head coach, but they got some bag.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some people that want UCLA basketball to be successful because UCLA is a basketball school.
People really do forget this.
Does UCLA just say, hey, we're going to spend a big chunk on one guy, and then we're going to sprinkle some, the rest on a couple of guys, but we have our one big guy? That's the way they want to design the roster compared to somebody that says, you know what? I got 5 guys. 3 guys I'm trying to acquire, 2 guys I'm trying to keep. And we're good with that, and it helps the rest of our roster.
I think
good. These will be, as we get deeper into this, those are interesting decisions that college basketball coaches with a smaller roster, of course, in football, will have to make in the way that they go about constructing a roster. Instead of going deep with depth, they go, hey, one guy can change the world.
I think
it's happened before in history.
I think it's so interesting where you've had teams, right? And maybe more so with mid-majors, but you've seen it with Power 5 teams as well, where they know that, hey, they're not going to be the best for maybe a year or maybe even 2 years, but it's because they have a lot of high school guys coming in. They have they have a younger team, and they know that they have to let that develop, right? And it was almost kind of like a natural kind of cycle before NIL happened, right? It's very interesting now where I think as we get down the line, that question that you're asking is definitely going to be a year-to-year situation. It will definitely be hey, we're losing a lot of guys. Let's add some dudes that we know that we could be here for 2 to 3 years and that we think that can develop. Like a Janiah Broome didn't just walk into Auburn. Janiah Broome was at Auburn for a couple of years before he became the superstar, right? There are, you can grab a couple of these guys, have them develop into superstars, and then you go, all right, now you're in the position where, hey, we're going to spend a lot of money to go and get 1 or 2 guys because we think we've developed this roster to the point where we can do that. I think what's so unique about this situation now is that it doesn't necessarily have to be year to year because you're starting with a bit of a fresh canvas, right? You have so much money and you have so many impact players in the portal where you kind of have to begin the process of deciding where do we want to be next year or where do we want to be a couple of years from now? Is it more advantageous for us to go all in and get these big guys and try and be competitive right away? Or can we step back for a second and try and grab some smaller guys that we think we can develop? And then as the years progress, then we hammer it home.
So this is what Nebraska is doing this year. They are not going all in on 1 or 2 guys because, again, they are going to spend some money to retain, and they might have a guy that double dips in Jamarcus Lawrence, who was here, left, could be coming back. There is mutual interest. But there's another part of, from the Nebraska angle. Like Creighton's in a good spot because they're a basketball school that doesn't have to support football. Omaha also is in a good spot with hockey and men's basketball. But let me present the scenario to you because in the revenue share of dividing up the pie, most places are going to go 70, 15, 5, 5, 5. So 70 is football. But you have to declare, hey, we're a football school.
Yeah.
Or we're a basketball school. I think you got to declare that. I might almost have to do it publicly. But what happens at Nebraska if men's basketball is skittering a little bit, and the athletic department needs Nebraska basketball to be successful. They need the barn in the rail yard to be packed.
Yeah.
Okay, and they need success, and there's no reason they can't have success. I'm sick of excuses for Nebraska basketball. All right, those have been eliminated in the new day and age of college basketball. This year, hopefully, was a blip. Next year, you turn around, you're back in the tournament.
Yeah.
But that should not be the end goal at Nebraska basketball. This is what I hate. When did it become the end goal of, hey, just win a game? How about go to the tournament and maybe, you know what? Maybe spend maybe go to 2 weekends.
Why is the height shouldn't be a 7 seed?
But there's a part of, like, if you're Troy Dannon and the most popular and most successful sport on campus, I shouldn't say most popular because football is more popular, but the most successful sport on campus is volleyball. And let's say they're one of the 5. Okay? They're one of the 5. They're not the 15, but they're the 5. And, they have a good NIL, and it's you get your return on investment. But what happens if DBK walks into TD's office and says, yo? I don't know that she would say yo, but she strikes me as somebody that would talk that language. Would not use the word bro. That guy just retired. Everything is a bro. Everything is bro.
You think she's a dude? Because, hey, dude.
Nah, she don't strike me as a dude.
Dude.
I dated somebody from Cortland.
I thought she's a lady.
I didn't really date somebody from Cortland. We hung out a couple times.
Yeah.
But she never used the word dude.
Professor.
But what if she says, hey, that guy that's inside of PBA, and remember TD, we're going to pack that place in August.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need a little bit more than our 5. Where does and this is all hypothetical. This has not happened. DBK just started practice last week. She's not in there in the office going, hey, my girls need more, or my ladies. But where if, you have those conversations, do you take away from the pie? Do you take away from a sport that's not performing but is one of the 5 that is getting the rev share? Or do you try, hey, let's help you. Let's help you on the back end with the NIL. See, this is why right now being an athletic director.
Oh, my God. Lord.
Yep.
Don't want to do that.
But these conversations are going to happen because they're happening with men's basketball at football schools that are getting 70 to 75% of that 100% pie.
The only way I see that happening is if a volleyball or a school that you would relate to volleyball right now decides to go.
And there's none, because Nebraska is the only school in America where volleyball could say, hey, you know what? We might need a little bit more.
But what happens if Texas, and this is where your hypothetical comes into play, Texas decides, all right, you know what? We're going to do 7% of the pie at volleyball, right? And then Louisville says, well, they're doing 7%. We'll do 8%, right? Where does that put Nebraska, right? It's a top, volleyball is a top sport. Women's athletics is a massive deal. It would not be a good thing, and I think Troy Dannon fully understands, if they were not leading or not trying to do their absolute best to lead in volleyball. That's where this discussion comes in. I don't know if
you can't afford volleyball to slip.
You cannot.
Now, they're going to be great this year. I mean, they're going to be
incredible. No, without a doubt. But I don't know if right now with the current roster, the team they have, the coach they have, the talent they have, that Dannon would go ahead and say, hey, we're going to up it from 5% to 7% because of where they're sitting. But if Texas decides, or Louisville decides, or Penn State decides, hey, you know what? We're going to invest more into volleyball. Nebraska, in my opinion, has to match that, has to go ahead and say, okay, we'll step up with that. And then it just comes down to where are the other percentiles lying, and can you afford to take those percentages outside of basketball?
So let's do this. So football is king, and Nebraska needs football to be back.
Yes.
They also need men's basketball to be successful, and you're not going to take away from men's basketball. You're just not. You're cutting off your hand, and you are limiting any future of Nebraska basketball if you say, yeah, that's 70-50. You know what? We're going to need to come in and work on Saturday, and we're going to cut you down to 12. You can't do that, okay? They need those two sports to be bangers, okay? They need the Husker fan to be fully husked from August all the way to March, okay? And then maybe call a doctor in April and let it go because you got a little bit of spring. But so volleyball is one of those 5. Women's basketball, another one of those 5.
Where does wrestling fall?
Well, where is baseball? Welcome to College Athletics 101.
My Lord. I got another question. I got another hypothetical for you, though. Right? We're all saying 70-15, 5-5-5. What happens if one football program decides goes ahead and says, you know what? We're going to go 80. We're going to put 80% of the pie in.
And they better be winning national championships.
Yeah, but what happens if? And I'm not saying it's going to happen. All right, and maybe it's not even. Maybe they go from 70 to 75. But what if there becomes a clear leader in the clubhouse in terms of who's spending in football, and then that team has a distinct advantage, and they start winning, and they start competing at the highest level and are consistently there, and then another school decides to up the football, and another it is a little. This is all going to get down to follow the leader. And whether or not are you willing to invest and what are you willing to sacrifice? And I think you asked this question a couple of maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Would you rather be incredible at 1 to 2 sports, or would you rather be solid and competing consistently at 5 to 6? Right? There are some athletic departments who could pretty confidently say, you know what, we're worried about 2. We want to be good in football. We want to be good in basketball. Or we want to be good in football. Or we want to be good in this other sport we're known for. Right? There are some athletic departments, and I think this is more so catered toward Nebraska with the differing fans that you have throughout these sports and fan bases, where I think Nebraska falls into the pool of it's good for it. Like, they need to be good at multiple sports. They need to be solid at 5 to 6 sports because there are so many fan bases that are interested in those athletics. And that's a tough place to be when you have those expectations at being at the very, very top in some of these sports, like football, like volleyball.
Yep. All right. John Walker is going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. We'll get some tweets and some emails. And also pour one out for the volunteers that work the chain gang in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, they'll still be there. They're like cones.
They're like cones?
They're like cones. They're traffic cones.
It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome to Seattle. Weather outside. I love the heat. I love summer. I actually like this kind of weather. I'm
vibing with you.
I'm a Portland, Seattle, Pacific Northwest, but I'm also a South Florida guy, so it's kind of a mixture of what?
I might go fishing today. This is perfect fishing weather. I mean,
we'll get on Zorinsky.
No, it is. A little bit of rain, the cloud, right? The water will be colder. They won't be as, sluggish down low. They'll be a little bit more frantic. 12 o'clock isn't necessarily feeding time for the fishies, but
it is for me.
I feel like if you go ahead and you can find a nice little branch or nice little cove to throw in a nice little chatterbait, work it back, I think you can get a couple bites, maybe some largies. I might do. I'm being serious. I might go fish.
Would you say smallies and largies?
Largies. Yeah, largies out here. I haven't caught too many smallies out here in Nebraska.
Where do you go fishing?
So I went to Motto McLean, that park district where the hockey. That's like a pond. Didn't really get too much success out there. Then I went to Standing Bear. On Saturday, funny enough, it was weather just like this. I had walked out to my car to go and grab something. I wasn't planning on fishing. It was cloudy. It was rainy. I go, this is perfect. So I went out to Standing Bear. Great little spot that they have out there to kind of stand out there. Now, I'll tell you something right now. I'm not familiar with Nebraska lakes and areas and all that stuff. So it's more so fishing, not catching. Haven't been catching a lot. But I have a little birdie told me that Mahoney is getting a little hot right now, that people are able to have been catching some.
That birdie's name is Greg Wagner.
Some fish out there at the Mahoney Skate Park. So I think I'm going to go out to Mahoney at some point. That'll be my next fishing adventure.
I miss Greg Wagner. He used to come in on Saturdays when the late Jerry Gray had his that show, and he'd do the Husker show. So I'd always see Greg Wagner, and the guys from Stoyset Sausage would be in.
I would love to meet Greg Wagner.
He is a gem. Great
love
guy.
To meet him.
Great guy. So I'm footballed out.
No, you're not.
Yep.
We didn't even start. We've barely talked about it.
That's all we talk about.
We're in the third day of the week. We're in the second week of spring football.
I am footballed out when it comes to this.
Oh. Ha! It's like we haven't even made graphics yet, and you're already footballed out.
We're making graphics?
I don't think we're making graphics.
Make some chili.
I go, we're making graphics. I like this.
I'll make graphics.
Someone go home and make chili and cinnamon rolls today. We're making graphics. I'm footballed out when it comes to spring football in the UFL.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I'm the anti-basketball guy.
Yeah.
That hey, guys,
it's March. It's March.
Why don't you guys talk about Jordy Ball more? I don't want to hear about John Butler. Can you give me some Jordy Ball? And you know what?
That's a drop.
Can you break down why Mark Manning got a text while he was in church on Sunday from a wrestler that said, "Coach, I think I'm going to Iowa."
But
can you talk about that? I don't
track and field won national championship.
I don't give a damn about Elijah Judy. Screw him. He came from a school where that traitor
long jump.
Okay. So
you're footballed out.
I'm footballed out of the UFL, and I think most of you are. So the ratings
they are playing supposedly.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't know if the UFL is going to make it through the year. I know that there are TV networks, but and it should just be a TV product, except for St. Louis. And I feel bad for St. Louis because St. Louis had their team taken away from them. Okay, and they got minor league football, and they packed the dome. They love the Battlehawks.
Yeah,
and they're good. And I know a couple of people that have driven down to St. Louis because they want to go to a Battlehawks game, and it's a great atmosphere.
Sure.
Okay, so they may have the rug pulled out from them again in St. Louis with minor league football, or not. I shouldn't say minor league, but it's pro football, but it's not.
It's minor.
The NFL.
Gary, it's minor league football.
Oh, that's a disrespect to the guys that are playing. I'm not gonna say it's minor league football. Minor league football is like the stuff that you see that shows up like in a Ralston arena.
Yeah. One of our
these guys are former pros.
Yeah.
They're playing,
and they're trying to get to the NFL though. Like that. That's why I kind of maybe process it as like that, just because I think the goal is to get to the NFL. But that's besides the point.
I think we've clamored so much for a spring football league. I mean, we've had
all
spring football and fall football in this town, and we actually like it. I think the NFL is so good that we are so spoiled
Yeah, that's a
that
good point.
unless it's college, there's nothing that compares to the NFL. And those leagues only thrive by who's playing quarterback. Like if you have guys that are playing quarterback that you've never heard of before, it's awful tough. And the quarterback play maybe is not the best because, again, in the NFL, banger. Yeah. We love the NFL. The NFL with quarterbacks and teams, it's never been better. That I think we say, oh, we love football. I'm telling you, I'm footballed out. I watched 3 plays of the UFL this past weekend. I'm like, I'm good.
More than me.
I'm good. And the TV ratings showed it. And there's going to be some people that might be out of jobs.
Did you see the point of view camera that they had on a couple of these players where it just, first off, from the point of view, like, because you see those angles from the referee camera in the NFL, it's a lot slower. It's just a lot slower of football. And that's to be expected because it's, the NFL is the top football players in the world. But also, too, you get a kind of a better view of how many people are in the stands from the point of view camera, right? And like ESPN gets it, like they're strategic with how many people they're showing and where they might be pointing the cameras and whatnot. But the point of view camera doesn't have a producer telling you where to shoot and where not to shoot. It is empty. It is empty.
Except for St. Louis, man. I don't know why they didn't. The other night, so the 3 plays I watched, it was DC and St. Louis. Why wouldn't they kick off the season in St. Louis? Those fans down there, they would pack the dome, but they would have 25, 30,000.
Fill it up nicely.
Now, I think the Cardinals were playing. No, the Cardinals weren't. Maybe they had the day off. They opened on Thursday. But they
had an early game.
I don't know how much it's going to last. Or maybe they just say, you know what? This is all we want. We just want what everybody else would clamor to, but they can't. And that is sports is going to just on TV. They're not going to rely so much on butts and seats. They're going to rely more on the TV dollars.
Yeah.
And so they're content.
COVID.
They're content with you treating the UFL like bowl games that don't matter, where you stay at home and watch it on TV. You still watch, but you stay at home. And I think there are some scary things about sports where there's some organizations that look at, hey, if we just put on a great TV product and we make money from TV, we can be okay with not having very many people in the seats.
Well, that's what's happened to the bowl games. That's exactly what occurred. They don't really care about the venues or the fact that people are going there or it's selling out these like unique places and the matchups and whatnot. That is a made for TV product. And all the sponsorships they have, the TV deals that they have, and they know, and it's, still we're talking about college football to spring football. So it's still more of an attractive product, right? Because of the leagues, but it is one of those, I just don't like it though. I get it. I understand the business model. I understand people want to make money. I understand we're talking about human beings who get employed. We're talking about people who make a living off this stuff. We're talking about, they're feeding their families, they're paying their bills. Like, I'm never going to be against that or go and say to get this off the screen because there are a lot of people that are affected by that. But I've always thought that,
I would say that when Stephen A's on.
What makes sports is like the in-person experience and the atmosphere and just the stakes. And when we talk about the best moments in sports, what are some of the things that we do when we're describing those best moments? We set the scene, right? Who creates the scene? The fans create the scene. And I think this is a different conversation just because, spring football in general isn't that attractive, not as attractive as other products, but I just hope we don't get to the point where we're all comfortable with, hey, we make enough money on TV. We don't really care about what the ambiance is in an arena. And we're kind of trending that way.
I'm with you. It's scary. It's scary. But there's people that are like, I'm okay with that because we're getting our money, and our money is so enormous that we can make up for not having butts and seats. We want butts and seats, but if we're not full, I don't care. You're still watching, and we can still sell advertising on the TV network and make money off of that.
But I just feel like that's what makes sports. And I know that you and I like there are just people, right? Jimmy, you're the same, where it's like regardless, like we're still going to go to the games because we have those memories and we enjoy doing that. But my favorite things about going to games is a homer is hit and you're rooting for that team and you turn around and there's a complete stranger. You don't know their name. You've never seen this person in your life. And without hesitation, you put your hand up and they high five you. right? And you go around and you give high fives. And by the end of the 8th inning, if it's a really good game and you've scored a lot of runs, you've made friends essentially within that section, right? What happens when less and less of those people exist?
You make
right?
no friends.
And less people. Well, what happens if it just becomes a commonality that, you're not as many at as many games people are going to? It will never be extinct. Fans will always be at games. There will always be sellouts. There will always big games, right?
Hope we're not cardboard cutouts.
I mean, but we're getting to the point where
dinosaurs once said the same thing.
If this trend continues, you're going to have less and less of those opportunities. And to me, that's what makes me love sports.
I like that you're fighting to bring back the high five, because I think the fist pound is just crushed the high five, and I think the high five, people don't know. People are very awkward with the high five now.
There's
nothing high five a stranger, they don't know what to do. I really, it's a sad really state of affairs in this country that needs to be addressed. It's probably not up on the list of Liberation Day today, but we need to
talk
on
my list.
We need to talk
about high five everyone in the office.
We need to talk about bringing back the high five. I actually did a promotion once, and people just, you know what? The high five was killed before COVID, and it's really sad.
The best part is when you miss the high five, and then the guy goes, "Oh, we got to redo that one. We got to make sure we get a crisp one. We got to make sure we hit on that."
I've never had a redo high five.
Oh, I've done. I've had plenty of redo high fives.
You just keep it moving.
Plenty of redos.
Yeah, that's an embarrassing thing. Like if you miss on the high five.
Let's do it again.
Well, if the guy's really tall and you're lower down and he's higher up, you got to jump up there and get athletic.
You got to have a plan when you go the high five. You can't like at 5'8".
You got to attack it.
5'8", say, "Hey, Jokic, let's high five," and he just holds it up, and you're like,
"Don't do high five."
Jumping up. All right, when we come back, the dynamic between John Butler and Matt Rule was on display yesterday. That was kind of curious, and some of the things the defensive coordinator said, we will hop into. John Walker from the World Herald will join us. I know. We violated everything. Joe's going to be calling going, "Hey, tell me more about that Manning story in church." True story. He did. He got a text. Coach Manning was at church on Sunday, and, he's aggressively recruiting, and there's some big names in the college wrestling portal.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, watch for college wrestling to dabble more in Japan. I mean, Japan is a banger of international wrestling. Like Penn State just got a commitment from a big-time Japanese wrestler. That could be the next phase. But, yeah, Coach Manning is working in the portal. He got a text while he was in church from somebody who was like, "Hey, Coach, the Bumblebees are offering me more money." And he was like,
"Damn."
Yeah. John Walker, Brandon Vogel, still to come on 1620 The Zone. For the non-spring football discussion person, the mayor from Gretna, Mike, wants to know if we'll be having a bracket challenge for the National Collegiate Women's Bowling Championship, which comes your way next weekend.
I'll tell Nebraska.
Yes.
So Nebraska this weekend, this is the regional round. They're in the double elimination mega match. They will play as a number 2 seed. The number 1 seed, by the way, is Jacksonville State out of Alabama.
Ooh, the Gamecocks.
They will play the winner of Kutztown and Fayetteville State, who are having a single elimination mega match coming up tomorrow.
Mega match.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like the Lakers and Celtics, but for bowling.
Now, this is legit.
So more so like Lakers 76ers.
Well, I mean, Nebraska's won 8 national championships, and they've got them displayed, by the way, if you go to the bowling alley on East Campus. It's a really great facility.
It is. It's awesome. So I love bowling there. I often went there when I was a student. It was a great time.
The Jacksonville State, they are in the Arlington Regional.
Ooh, that's tough.
They are the number 1 seed there. In the Lansing Regional, Wichita State, which has been a bowling powerhouse, is the 4 seed.
They don't have baseball anymore.
Nebraska will be in the Pittsburgh Regional.
Okay.
As the number 2 seed. And Youngstown State is the number 3 seed in the Rochester Regional.
Penguins.
The championships will be on ESPNU on Saturday, April 12th at 8 p.m.
Is that coinciding with the Saturday the Masters? We have a nice little quad box.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have the actual broadcasters. You'll have your featured group. You'll have Amen Corner, and then then you'll have ESPNU on watching the Women's National Bowling Championships.
Like Chris Schenker.
I actually did. I very much enjoyed after FS1 after some Big Ten basketball games. If you stayed around the broadcast, you would watch the Professional Bowling Association. I often did kind of stick around for 25 to 35 minutes and watch the PBA. Also, too, if you ever got into a broadcast too early, the PBA might have been going on. Yeah. And so you caught the ending of the duels and the matches. I'll tell you something right now. Bowling actually is a very, if there's good bowling going on, it's an entertaining sport to watch.
Yeah, I got
Jason Belmonte.
Yeah.
Shout out Pete Weber.
Yeah,
Wherever.
Pete Weber. He'll always be the best.
Yeah. Who do you think he is?
I got not shamed, but I was invited to go watch Nebraska bowling after my rant about Bill Straub won a national championship and then ghosted the show. So they invited me down, and they go, hey, here's a seat. They didn't hey, you get to throw out the first ball.
Here's a roll.
You weren't the guest of honor,
but I was like, man, this is a great facility because when I was in school, it wasn't as nice as it was now, and you went there just to jack around. But this is a real question, especially for the
throw out the first ball.
Isn't that what you do?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen a first. I haven't seen a first roll before in bowling.
I think we all need to go.
This was back in my young dating life.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go bowling.
Sure.
And I just wanted to see a reaction.
Solid.
And so she's like, hey, have you bowled before? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't own my own shoes or shirt or anything like that, or my own ball.
I would be concerned if you pulled up with your own shirt.
Just to see her reaction. The first ball I rolled, I actually hurled past the dots on the lane, and just to see the reaction. Her reaction was okay. The reaction of others was a little bit, we might have to go early.
Yeah.
Can we get some bumpers on this lane,
that's
please?
what I would do. If they said, hey, we want you to come and roll out the first ball, I would just
I don't think that's a thing.
Real question here to the people that are in the group of the JBs that don't want us to talk spring football.
Sure.
Is Nebraska bowling a bigger dynasty than the 90s Nebraska football program? Because they had a really good year. So they finished number 1. I don't know if you guys are looking every day at the National 10-Pin Coaches Association rankings.
Every other day.
Personally, I am not.
Nebraska is number 1. Now, they finished strong. They had 3 tournament victories at the end, and they had 6 different individuals make their all-tournament team during the season. Now, here's the thing. Why I say it's a dynasty.
Shirt.
There is no sport you are not locked in for.
They have 8.
Incredible.
They have 8 national titles. How can you not be locked into the sport? The former head coach who was the GOAT, he married one of his bowlers. How can you not be all in on this?
Hell yes.
And going, what the hell is going on?
That's how you do it.
Okay, this is the 22nd straight NCAA tournament that Nebraska is entered as a 2 seed.
That's like Kansas
Now-
basketball
now
until
last
this
Who
year.
does who does the
last
game?
year-
Who does the media notes at Nebraska bowling? This is an incredible script.
It is usually
We get him.
It actually might be Jack Mitchell's kid, Johnny.
Joe could be Johnny.
Okay,
Johnny's great.
But here's the thing: like last year on Kegler's overreaction, remember Nebraska got upset by Youngstown State. They didn't even get out of the regional. Okay, so we're back this year. The first ball will be thrown tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The mega match between Kutztown and Fayetteville State. Now the winner moves on to take on Nebraska. So plan accordingly, okay? But is Nebraska bowling a bigger dynasty than the Nebraska football program in the 90s? Some were saying that Bill Straub
Some are saying
was Nick Saban.
how many eight titles in the span of how many years?
He wear the TO red pants.
Good.
'cause
I
that
mean,
would clinch
I
it.
know it's not eight titles in 10 years. I know it's probably an elongated.
Well,
I know.
okay,
I will say
so-
this. Wait. I did forget to say this. When I got to Nebraska, I claimed that every championship that Nebraska had won while I was a student, I was going to buy a T-shirt of. I have a bowling national championship T-shirt that every time
Why
I wear it
wouldn't
out,
Yeah.
people love it. They think it's awesome. I have a softball Big Ten championship T-shirt and I have a baseball Big Ten championship.
I'd wear a
T-shirt.
bowling hoodie.
Now remember, this has only been a varsity sport since 98.
Wow.
I remember
Okay,
98.
they
Wow.
recruit. This is in all seriousness, they get bowlers from all over the
Oh, they're
country.
great.
Now, I probably would have tried harder when I was in school if I knew that I could get like a bowling scholarship.
Same.
But they had a run. So right out of the box, remember, this is why Bill Straub committed the Tim Miles problem. Tim Miles won right away at Nebraska. That was not supposed to happen. He was going to tear down the program. Then by year 4 or 5, like they were going to be bangers and then he was going to get the hell out. He won in year 2, and then it was like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Bill Straub came in, and in the second year of the program as a varsity sport, won a title. And then he said, you know what? Van Horn, step aside. Won another one in 01.
And he
then
did.
in 04. Then in 05. And then the expectations grew because football was struggling at the time. They're like, Husker Nation turns their lonely eyes towards East Campus.
One was going down, the other was on
And
the
then-
The eyes of the world
and then-
turned up.
And then what happened is he had some bowlers that turned pro early, and he wasn't able to
That's-
replace them.
That's tough.
No
But
portal.
then they rebounded, and they had kind of a breakthrough. They weren't a very good team in 09, but they won a title, and that's why we celebrated accordingly. And then Bill's getting towards the end of his career, and he says, "Not so fast," because the headmaster, the kingpin from Kutztown, was he was like angling. They were starting to rack up titles.
The bigger
said-
and McCracken, if you
Yes, he said, "You know what, dude, I will be the Big Lebowski." They won a title in 13 and 15, and then he said, "Peace, I'm out."
will. Don't pull
And
Munson.
then the new coach, who was his assistant, won in 21. I got a good feeling about 2025. But
Matt,
they've
you
won
should watch
8
Kingpin
national
today.
titles since it became a varsity sport in 98.
Nobody
else.
Are you angling to take Rob Stone's job at to be the PBA
Nope.
announcer?
Nope.
You looking to take Fana's
Nope.
job? I mean,
Nope.
that's an incredible
First of all,
breakdown.
Chris Schenkel
No.
will always be the bowling voice. If you know,
Nope.
you know.
I just would like to wish Paul Klempa good luck. Julia Bond, who was a bowler at Nebraska, because I recognize that name. I mean,
Good luck.
yeah.
The whole state is behind you.
Here's the thing, though. We got to work on the NIL for
I was going to
for
say,
bowling.
where do they fall in the 5%?
well,
Do
they've got,
do
they've
do
got
get a piece
athletes
of the
from all
pie?
over the country, from New York all the way to lacrosse to San Antonio.
Didn't they
Hey.
have a overseas
Desiree,
player or overseas bowler on their roster a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken?
I'm sure it was probably
Yeah.
Penny Haynes. If you know, you know.
I don't.
Here's one thing I just realized: the bowlers have numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
Like-
Do they have
Oh,
last names on the
yes.
jerseys, though?
Well, I don't know. So they actually on the roster they have numbers. So Desiree Bouchert, who is a sophomore from your hometown, went to Taft High School.
Ah, that would explain
Oh,
the last
dang.
name.
Whoa,
She wears number 44.
She
Shout
went
out Taft Red Raiders.
No,
She knows.
they're not the Red Raiders. They're,
It's my hometown. I would know if Taft
Oh.
High School's the Red Raiders.
Oh, no.
Dude, she's on open door.
we
Open
kicked
doors.
their ass in high school,
Hey,
not in bowling.
If
though.
you want,
Taft.
if you want,
Taft had a bowler?
if you want Desiree to do a shout out for you, it costs you $10. If
Really?
you- if
Good
you-
for her.
If you
Do I
would
get a
like,
discount.
if you would like Desiree to post on social media, $10.
Hell
if you
yeah.
would like her to attend your practicer event, $10 or more. Oh, these are all 10 or more. If you would like an autograph, Desiree will do it for 10.
Wait, so she's from. Oh, no. Oh.
Desiree doesn't even remember
Oh.
David
Oh,
Robinson.
geez. I thought you meant my hometown.
No, there are
of
lots of
Illinois.
Taft high schools.
Well, I have a Taft in my hometown. That's
think
what you're
every
referring to.
town has a
Oh, I
Taft.
gotcha.
No, Lincoln.
I gotcha.
Okay.
That
Hold on.
I guess maybe that was very ignorant and naive of me to think that
We're from the same town.
To think that a high school named after a president
Only in San Antonio, because when
only
you
in
think
Illinois.
San Antonio, you think of two things: bowling and William Howard Taft.
Only in Chicago, right off of I-90.
Okay, so now I've gone down the rabbit hole of open doors.
What is Open Doors? Is that like a cameo?
No, it's the NIL, like kind of it helps with all the NIL.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if you would like Dylan Raiola to post about you on social media,
can I guess?
That's so you.
Can I
Matt.
guess?
yeah, what do you think the starting price is?
5,000.
Oh, whoa.
$1, Bob.
$126.
Dylan Raiola?
You think Dylan Raiola to post about you on his social media starts at $5,000?
Well, I thought
Let's wait till he wins
we
eight
were talking
games
about
first.
I am done with college sports.
I thought
I'm just going to focus on the NFL.
I thought we were talking about, like, I look at this as like advertising for businesses. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like a free advertisement. I'm not thinking of like I'm paying $126 for Dylan to post about me on his social media.
But you could.
126 seems kind of low.
Liners.
So for an autograph, $89.
That's not bad.
But he autographs a lot of stuff for free.
So just hold out and pick up the table scraps.
That makes me uncomfortable if athletes, college athletes, while they still have eligibility, are charging for autographs and hey, if it's an adult, hell yes.
Well,
but if it's a kid,
no.
Okay, so if you want Dylan to pitch anything, Dylan will respond to your custom request. It starts at $52. If you would essentially like Dylan to do a cameo, it starts at $38, and I bet that's extremely popular. Hey, can you wish my dad, who's a big Husker fan, from the starting quarterback, can you wish him a thing? So an appearance, and he makes appearances that he just does on his own. I do know that for a fact. Maybe he is paid to do other things, but like when he went to the grade school, that was on his own. If you would like Dylan to attend your practice or event, it starts at $65.
Oh, we could get him in here for a couple hours.
Yeah.
I feel like these could be way more expensive. These are very affordable.
Okay. Vincent Shavers. Vincent Shavers will pitch anything starting at $42.
That's not bad at all.
These are good
prices.
$65 for an appearance. I'm trying to find who might be higher than Dylan on this
Just get some
roster.
liners for the show.
Could be. Who would be higher than Dylan? Emmett Johnson? What's Emmett Johnson?
Let me scroll here. Click on that.
These are very affordable things.
Emmett Johnson to pitch anything starts at $100, or an autograph starts at $100.
Yeah.
It's like the cost of eggs.
I don't know. I'm a little surprised with how low Dylan the prices are. Kudos to him, by the way. If he's charging these prices and making these appearances, that's like an awesome way to, serve the community and get out there and be active. Like, I'm a big fan of that. From an actual like PR perspective and an actual like human perspective, I respect the crap out of him because I do feel like he could overcharge greatly for some of these prices.
I will.
I think 89 is a little steep for an autograph from a true freshman quarterback. But outside of that, like, I don't know. If you're a high school coach and you want to have a little bit of morale at a practice, I don't think $60 is out of the realm of possibility to give the starting quarterback of the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Let me look here. By the way,
practice.
Open Doors does do a great job. Harper Murray to make an appearance starts at $153. Pitch anything starts at $203.
Go, Matt.
Autograph is cheaper.
What's an autograph?
Just $50. But again, I see a lot of these. They basically sign for everybody.
That's for adults. Right? Not for kids. They've been, and especially Dylan during those basketball games. I've seen him, sign plenty of things. He's always gracious with his time. Respect the crap out of that for that. Hey,
good on Open Doors working with the athletes.
Yeah.
It's not just Nebraska. They've got a plethora of colleges. It does keep it all in one place. That was I might buy a shout out for a bowling fan. I might buy Mayor Mike. We might get a Nebraska volleyball, softball, awesome. bowling player, a bowler. Yes. All right. John Walker. Well, we'll go through what John Walker, to give you a shout out, would cost you.
Creighton at bowling?
Does Creighton have open
They
door?
do not, but they have crew.
Oh.
Oh, yes, they do have open doors.
Oh, we can look at that.
Let me. I know. I want to look at Kalkbrenner.
Yeah,
here.
that's exactly Kalkbrenner and Ashworth.
New show?
Let me see if they have the link on.
I'd be surprised if it was anything less than triple digits for either of them in terms of making an appearance.
Maybe Jimmy can have him on after hours.
Wow, Kalkbrenner is cheap.
What is he?
So a shot out is 73.
Yeah,
Pitch anything is only 92.
that's not bad.
We got to make more money.
They're a little low. That's low, man.
I think Kalkbrenner he should go somewhere else. He's not getting the most for his bang for his bucket.
No, not
Creighton.
there.
I think he should sue the NCAA, get an extra year, and go somewhere else and make more money, like Lincoln. All right, John Walker comes next. Maybe that's a question for.
I'd be a fan.
For him.
John, I'm here at Kalkbrenner to Nebraska. What are you hearing?
Hey, I really wanted to get to 170 career games. I just need to play one more NCAA. John and Brandon Vogel coming up in the last hour in 1620 The Zone. All right, time to talk some basketball. The Crown quarterfinals are today in Vegas. And then there's this thing called the Final Four. The women are in Tampa on Friday. The men, of course, in San Antonio, maybe the greatest Final Four of all time. That's what people are saying, not necessarily us. Maybe this guy will say it. John Walker of the Omaha World Herald joins us. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good.
Great.
Hey, let me because you have covered a couple of different programs that have danced in March, and you know what the chatter is about. Oh gosh, there's no Cinderellas, and everybody went chalk. Is there going to be? And this might be a one-off, but Cinderellas don't win all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this might be a one-off. But maybe next year we get a couple of more upsets. But the best are the best when we get to the second weekend. Do you think we'll see a shift in March Madness where we talk about the Cinderella and it's about the portal player that's on a Power 5 team that moved up and had great success, like a Creighton Jr., more than the team that had a run and as a 14 got to weekend 2?
Yeah, I unfortunately think so. I unfortunately think that's right, because the fact of the matter is, if let's go back to 2 years ago, we had the Final Four with UConn and FAU and San Diego State, and Miami. I think Miami was the other one in that equation. If you somehow piece together a Cinderella run, one of two things, or as we've seen today, both will happen. One, your coach gets poached for a different job. Yeah. Two, you have mass exodus through your roster so that they can go to bigger, better paying schools, which, you can't fault everyone for, because if you have an opportunity just in your regular everyday job to get a promotion and it comes with bigger pay, most of us would take it, right? Mm-hmm. But that's just the unfortunate reality of kind of where we're at in the landscape of college athletics and certainly college basketball. So it seems like the true Cinderella runs are over for teams, and that's exactly right. We'll get to the second weekend and you'll say, oh man, Matt McMaster was at FAU last year and now he just hit a buzzer beater, that'll be the conversation moving forward, is what it sounds like. Again, unfortunately, but I hope that's not the case.
Could you make the argument though that because this is where we're heading, that the next Cinderella run is going to mean so much more and be so much more captivating, and then it itself is valuable? Or would you rather have, one every year as opposed to maybe where we're going, where you have one every 3 to 4 years?
No, I think so. Like think about it, guys. We went however many years without a 1 seed beating a 16, and we got 2 of them in a 5-year span, I think is what it was. And the way we felt about those is not the way we will feel about the next one. Certainly not UMBC Virginia, because that was such a unique feeling for everyone. Because it was the first time it had ever happened. And it was like, oh man, like Virginia had Tony Bennett. They had all this talent that they recruited. The transfer portal wasn't really fully in effect yet. NIL certainly wasn't, at least not legally. And some of those things had started to trickle into the system once Purdue and FDU played. But that FDU stylistically played a brand of basketball that Purdue had struggled with all year, and certainly did in that game. But like this one, whatever the next one is, whether that's next year, the year after, or the year after, it's going to be like, okay, well, this mid-major team, I'm sure we'll see the graphic or whatever. They spent $1 million on their roster, and insert power conference teams spent $4.3 million. So like, for all of the things working against smaller schools now, the next Cinderella run will be incredible.
Let's talk about the portal, because I know that's what you love to talk about this time of the year.
Woo!
And I do, from like Creighton's standpoint. If you watch them over the last couple of years, they're mentioned, but they kind of work quietly. And Owen Freeman was on campus like right away last week after the season came to an end, and he tells everybody on IG, I'm moving from Iowa City to Omaha. How do you see the marriage working in what Creighton has to offer and what Owen Freeman will bring from his brief time at Iowa? That this was this is the next phase of post Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Yeah, well, what Creighton has to offer is kind of a big man's paradise. Like you can look at the history of the bigs who have come through this program, whether it was more recently Christian Bishop, whether it's Gregory Echenike, obviously Ryan Kalkbrenner. They've been different types of bigs. Like Justin Patton's obviously in there too. They've been different.
Yeah.
The end result has been the same. Like these are long-lasting program names. Certainly Ryan Kalkbrenner more than most. But everyone knows the names I just rattled off. So Greg McDermott and his staff have a really deep history of developing bigs. So they have that, and they have 36 minutes a game to offer in a starting role as a focal point in the system. So like from their side, it makes sense for Owen Freeman. And then what they're getting from Owen Freeman, the top rated center in the transfer portal, not remaining, just top rated period, top rated center in the transfer portal. He obviously is not Ryan Kalkbrenner, but he's the Ryan Kalkbrenner successor. And so he's forever gonna, in his 2 seasons or 1 season, whatever, he's gonna have to live up to that. And it'll look differently. It will look vastly different. I'm not trying to temper expectations because Owen Freeman is a really good player, but anybody who thinks that Owen Freeman's game will look remotely the same as Ryan Kalkbrenner's will be sadly mistaken in November. The good thing about it is this is not new to Greg McDermott. What was new to Greg McDermott was having a 7'1" rim protector and a drop coverage. Having a 6'10" center who can run the floor and beat people on the block in a variety of ways is not new to Greg McDermott. So I really think if you want to see what it could look like, go back and watch, this 2018, 2019, the 2020 into 2021. Go back and watch those teams. They were smaller. They ran the floor. That was the true let it fly in McDermott's system. And it seems like we're on our way back to that, just given what Owen Freeman's game is.
I think with these transfer portal acquisitions, but more so the, when guys enter in the portal from your own team, you can kind of see in some aspects or some cases the writing is kind of on the wall. Like even before the portal opens, you kind of have an understanding of, hey, this guy's probably going to go in there. Frederick King entered the portal, hasn't committed to another team yet. But John, I want to ask you, is this one that you kind of anticipated heading into the portal season, or did this surprise you? And is King a guy, we've seen some flashes from him on both sides of the floor for good and for bad. How big of a loss would you might categorize this?
Yeah, I truthfully, I don't know if we can categorize. I'll start with the second half of that. Sure. I don't know how big we can categorize the loss because Fred King showed flashes at different points. He also had some woes at different points. We all know that. The fact of the matter is he was never on the floor long enough to settle in and to have, a lasting impact. So genuinely, we don't know. Yeah. This past season, and understandably so when you're playing behind Ryan Kalkbrenner, but he played a career low, I think like 5.9 minutes a game. He played 6.5 minutes a game last year. He played 8.5 minutes a game as a freshman. So his role has diminished year by year for one reason or another. But it's a big loss either way because now they have to go get another big to play behind Owen Freeman. You would think. And then for the first half of it, I expected all 3 guys who entered to enter.
Okay.
And from what I've heard, it sounds like Creighton did as well. there were obviously things that needed to be worked out with Pop Isaacs to see, like he had certain terms he wanted to come back on, and Creighton had certain terms that they wanted him to come back on, and they couldn't meet in the middle. But I think everyone expected Mason Miller to follow his uncle to Murray State. The logjam in the position, and his role was diminished this past year. It'll be a fresh start for him, and I think that'll benefit him at Murray State. And then, Fred King, he entered the portal last year before he came back. Didn't have a ton of suitors. We'll see if that changes this time around. But he was a portal dipper a year ago.
Yeah.
And will he be this year? I don't know. But I'd be shocked, or I'd be lying if I said I was shocked that any of the three entered the portal, because I think I certainly expected it. I think most people did, and I think Creighton did as well.
Hey, there's John Walker from the World Herald joins you, and it's not just because you're on with us. I'm a huge fan, and Creighton fans love your work. I think one of your best work, and you might not put it up for an award, but you should, is what was in the paper the other day about the off-the-wall questions you've asked of Mac. So I'm going to turn it on you. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
You guys genuinely should have seen Mac's face while I was asking this question.
John, where the hell does that question come from?
This is a pretty common one. This is a good one.
Yeah, it's a pretty common off-the-wall one. But I should have recorded a video of his face while I was asking this question, because he was like, where in the hell is this going? Like, you could just tell. I think I would rather fight, I think I'd rather fight 100 duck-sized horses, right? Like they've got horsepower, no pun intended, but like, that's a big duck. If you go the other option, and like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how do I possibly defeat a horse-sized duck? Because it can swim too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'd have to go with the 100 duck-sized horses. Get my legs swinging.
Now, can I ask? Did you also ask off-the-wall questions when you were at the Stillwater News Press of Mike Gundy?
I would occasionally, but I will say I'm not. This is not a flex, I promise. I had an, let's say, oddly unique relationship with Mike Gundy, because I covered his youngest son's last 2 years of high school football.
Okay.
Wow.
So I would sit in the press box with Mike Gundy some Friday night.
Oh, please tell some stories.
So I would ask him different types of off-the-wall questions if that makes any sense. And
sure,
it absolutely does, because Mike Gundy is just an off-the-wall guy. So no, this really, I didn't put it in that story. This really all started with Kirsten Bernthal Booth back in the fall.
Okay.
Like I had been I joined the Creighton beat last November. And I was like, these people really like don't know me. Like, I just showed up, and that was that, less than a year ago. And so I was like, I've got to make these people laugh a little bit. And so it started with her at our weekly fall availabilities with a bunch of the Creighton coaches. I can't even remember what I asked her.
Sure.
I don't even remember what I asked her. Maybe the first question was, if you were stranded on an island, what would be the three things you would bring with you? And I think she said a book, her husband, and she couldn't think of the third one. So that's what started this all. And I said, well, I'm just going to do it when basketball starts, and away it went.
I'd love to keep going here, but I know we're kind of getting to the end of our time. I got to ask you before we let you go. Any names to keep our eyes on in terms of the portal? Creighton still's got, the Blue Jays have plenty of work to do in terms of, replacing Stephen Ashworth and maybe getting another big. Are there any names that maybe we should keep our eyes peeled out for?
Yeah, the two that I'm watching, I'll give you three right now.
Okay.
And I think the one we're waiting for, this will be the domino that sets a lot in place for a few different schools in the portal is Josh Dix. He's one of the top guards, if not the top guard in the portal. I haven't looked at the rankings lately, but he's one of the top guards in the portal. Game's way different than Stephen Ashworth, but obviously there's a need in the backcourt. So that's the big one. Obviously Creighton has a little bit of a leg up because they have Owen Freeman, who Josh Dix just played a couple of years with. So we'll see what happens there. It sounds like it's between Creighton, Illinois, and Kansas in no particular order. I think a lot of people expect that decision to be made by the end of the week. And then the other two names, once all of that happens, the two that I'd keep an eye on are Nick Graves, Charlotte transfer guard, averaged 17 points a game last year for the 49ers. And he's a true point guard. And then the other one is Tyrone Riley from San Francisco. He's it'd look way different, but he would effectively be the Jemiah Neal replacement. Kind of have that similar role at the 2 and the 3, maybe a 3 and the 4 in a smaller lineup, which we'll probably see a lot of from this team next year. But those are the three names. I would most importantly watch Josh Dix and see how that scenario plays out, and then I think the dominoes will start to fall after, depending on what happens there.
All right, we can chat here. Monday night, before they queue up one shining moment, who will be cutting down the nets in San Antonio?
I think it's Auburn. Auburn has the least favorite odds to win it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why. I obviously didn't see Florida play in person. But I did see Auburn play in person, and I was sitting next to the Auburn beat guy, and we were just talking before the game, and I was like, "Hey, what should I expect?" He was like, "What should I expect?" And I asked him the same thing, and then the first, I was sitting on the end of the floor where Creighton was defending first, where I was sitting, and Auburn came out and started playing real physical defense and switching everything. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh boy." And I was just genuinely so impressed with one, how they defended and their physicality. And then they're still so skilled for being so physical. And you don't see that blend with a lot of teams. I guess the teams you do see that with are all in San Antonio right now. Yeah. But I've got Auburn. I've said since November that's the best team in the country, and I don't think I can switch up now.
Great stuff. I appreciate it, my man. Have a great week.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
That's John Walker from the World Herald. I agree with him. I'd rather fight 100 duck-sized horses than one horse-sized duck. That'd be a big duck.
I don't know, man.
It was in the river in Indianapolis.
I feel
last
like
summer.
You could get stampeded by.
But have you not seen Reacher? Reacher, man, multiple guys he takes down. I think I could find 100 duck-sized horses. You'd step on some.
Yeah, and you'd have to be good with your feet, right?
Yep.
You would have to be a really good kicker. This is a non-hand-to-hand combat unless they start crawling up you, which you do have to be cognizant of. You got to get them off the ankles, because if they start biting at the ankles, then you lose your kick.
If the ducks
Do I get a weapon?
Your feet.
No. It's just like Reacher. You just have your fists, your feet, your brain. Because you got to outsmart the duck-sized horses.
I think I can. I think I would take the horse-sized duck. I think I would do that. And the reason why is ducks can charge at you. It'll be able to come at me, but the lateral movement of it going in a circle, I think I can beat it off of the turn. If I can get the neck of the duck, I think I could be able to. I got a good rear naked choke. I feel like I could put the duck out.
But remember, this is a horse-sized duck.
I know.
I'd have to hold gigantic duck.
I'd have to hold on for dear life.
Dan Lanning in a low-key way.
Donald Duck and Secretariat combined.
Yeah.
That's what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if it was Red Stripe and Donald Duck combined, I would feel a little bit better. If it's Secretariat and Donald Duck combined, I don't feel all that great.
We'll take a
piece, Barbaro.
What a great question.
It is
just
great.
what was another one he asked him? If they made a movie about the Big East, who would play Greg McDermott? McDermott says, I think you've got a problem.
That's not the answer we were looking for.
That's a good problem. That's a good question. Answer. Who would play Greg McDermott? Mike Rabel.
Okay. John asked Mac, if the Creighton-Nebraska rivalry had a trophy, what would it be? Mac said, not a Cornhusker, that's for sure, or a piece of corn. I don't know where you come up with these questions. John is really, really good at his job. All right. Brandon Vogel, also very good at his job on counterread.com. He'll join us in about 15 minutes on 1620 The Zone. I fell into a burning ring of fire.
That's
Great
the first
song.
That's the
Great
first song that has gotten you to karaoke in the 4 months we've been doing
I love this song. Oh no, I've rapped.
Oh, you did do that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you did. Didn't you do Baby Got Back?
I can do them all.
No,
This
you're
man
very-
though did not do Baby Got Back.
No, I'm not. I'm going to tell you something right now. When it comes to music,
Baby Got Back.
I am out cultured by Mr. Gary Sharp in multiple genres, like top, bottom, top to down. Like
To be fair, you never had a prayer when it came to this show because
Well,
between the two of us, it's
good point.
The taste of love is sweet. When hearts like ours meet,
hell yes.
I feel for you like a child. Oh, but the fire went wild. Very uncomfortable. That last part, just X out. I just saw this. Congratulations.
Awfully itchy.
Coach Kip Colony over at Omaha Scud is retiring. A hell of a career. He was the only coach from the opening of Millard West girls basketball coach until he left after the 19th season. And now he is retiring. 35 years. The last 7 have been at Scud. And they just won the state championship. So that's how he goes out.
Way to go out.
Kip's great in the basketball community. So congratulations to him.
Is this the point of the week where we looked at LinkedIn to see who people who searched on LinkedIn to
That's
see
on Thursday.
when interest? Oh, that's on Thursday.
Trust me, I know.
Well played. Well played, Jimmy.
I got a couple interesting ones from
You
last
taught me
week.
a thing or two.
I got
Keep that profile updated. Keep your powder dry.
United Airlines
Yeah.
wants to come out and get me. That and Dubai Health or Dubai Health and the U.S. Army.
Quite the collection.
I know.
You got some choices.
That and the UC San Diego, Herbert Wortham School of Public Health and Human Longevity Science.
When you transition to academia?
Hey, too bad it's not the UC San Diego basketball job that was just open for a brief bit.
Yeah. Good thing.
Okay, so we'll get into a little bit more of this with Brandon Vogel, but I teased it and then I went down the hole of open doors and bowling and having Desiree make a video of like GBR. And we're going to take home the crown.
And what Taft High School she went to?
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Where the Final Four will be.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are already in San Antonio for the Final Four.
Why wouldn't it be? I went to San Antonio once. I want to go back. I can't believe it's been
How come you haven't gone back?
Well, I have to pay for my own vacations now. So it's kind of...
You get used to it.
That sucks when life begins, right?
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Butt.
So there was a lot yesterday, and I think it was interesting that the guys that spoke that are players are guys that have multiple years in the program. I think you find the best fits for a culture. And you have Javen Wright, who is an old man, but God, just please stay healthy.
I know.
Whether you root for Nebraska or not, there's a guy that just want him to stay healthy because he barely practiced last year because they had to keep him healthy for Saturdays. So he spoke yesterday. Deshaun Singleton, who's an older guy who's gone through an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Elijah Judy, who people have to be reminded, oh, yeah, he's still here, played better at the end of last year. And then there was John Butler. So here's how I look at this interesting dynamic of Matt Rule and John Butler. I never have a doubt that Matt Rule will have good defenses because Matt Rule is a defensive guy. But here's how I look at their relationship. And I think this is fascinating. And you don't always want to hire yes men or people that are just like you. And when he promoted John Butler to defensive coordinator, I think he is the complete opposite of Rule. I think Rule makes football simple, that at the end of the day, you still got to block and you still got to tackle. Yeah. And that's how you get to winning and losing. Where John Butler strikes me, and this is not a negative, it's just how you're built when you look at the sport. He says, Matt, you're right. But let me tell you about the blocking and the tackling and how it all works.
Yeah.
And just sit down for a little bit. And he goes on and weaves his way through how you block and tackle. I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic, how those two work together. And maybe they don't necessarily work together because Phil Snow will work more with John Butler, but Rule will have a vested interest. I think it's kind of interesting to hear Butler talk after hearing Rule talk on how they look at football.
I think it is because Butler talks more about the scheme. And Butler talks more about packages. And Butler doesn't necessarily talk about players. And the classic line from Rule, don't tell me what a player can't do, right? And so there definitely is a difference between, and Butler talked about this in terms of developing players, right? He talked about how when he came into the room last year, the DB room last year, that it was an adjustment for him. That teaching NFL players is different than teaching college players, and he had to have Matt Rule basically tell him, "Hey, you coach NFL players, you train college players, right? This is how you have to approach, these guys that you're in the room with." And I think it's almost as if being a defensive coordinator is a better thing for John Butler than being a singular position coach in college football.
That's what he wanted to do.
Because he takes that. He's almost like a guy who's better in 1,000-foot view. He's better when he can everything manipulated affects another thing. And I think that's how they look at it differently. Rule is very player-oriented, player-centric. Butler, clearly after yesterday, and just not wanting to name guys and talk about guys at all, is very defense-eccentric and scheme-eccentric. But what I also think, too, is, and I know they're in different positions, and John Butler isn't necessarily put in the position to talk about these things, but Matt Rule enjoys talking about what's going on in college football and the national college football scene, and he has opinions, and he wants his opinions to be known. John Butler strikes me as a guy where he doesn't give a damn. It's about his team, it's about his defense, it's about what they're doing, and it's about how they're performing, and it's how they're running, right? And I do think it is a really good contrast to have between those two. And I think we've called Dana Holgorsen the head coach of the offense, but how John Butler talks and carries himself, I would not be I'm not going to hold back and say that he acts as if he's the head coach of the defense, which is, I think, what they need. I think they need that. I think they need a guy who takes control like that and who's willing to fix those things and wants it to be perfect. And then you have Matt Rule as the CEO who adds his kind of culture and flavor to all of that.
The other question from yesterday, because you were down there in Lincoln.
I was.
So the open practice last week, Mike Eckler showed up after he got off his shift at the coal mine in North Lincoln. It reminded me of the great photo. You remember the story when Calipari was at Kentucky and there was the coal miner that had just come out of the mine and he hustled home to pick up his son because his son was just getting into Kentucky basketball. And Kentucky always plays a Big Blue exhibition somewhere in the state.
They're like fan
and
thing.
And then there was the year that they had all the flooding in Pikeville. So they went up to Pikeville and played. And it was in this guy's hometown, so he took his family, but he didn't have time to go home and clean up, so he came right out of the mine. He's sitting courtside. There's a famous picture, and Calipari basically has adopted the family, like still stays in touch with him after his trip to Arkansas. Like, has anybody asked, like, I think they're paying Eckler a pretty good amount of money. Why does he have to work in the coal mine in Northeast Lincoln?
I have no clue.
And also be the special teams coach? Why has nobody brought that up?
I don't know. But I think it adds character.
Some guys like the
extra
extra
It adds character
cash.
in special teams, no? Maybe he works in the coal mine because he's like, you know what, guys, special teams, it's just a coal mine on the field. You're just grinding, you're just chipping away. You just got your axe and you're getting your coal, you're getting your energy, you're getting your juice. That's what we need on the special teams unit. We need juice, baby. He did mention him and he brought up how I always find it to be a great compliment from coach to coach when one coach goes, hey, I really like going into their meetings and listening to their meetings, and you don't necessarily hear that a lot. And I think it's an ultimate compliment. And we've seen it a couple times with this coaching staff where they point out and say, hey, I learned something from this coach every time I sit down with them. And I do think those comments specifically from this staff are important because of the different backgrounds that they have.
All right, Brandon Vogel at counterread.com coming next. All right, it's that time of the week. We welcome in our good friend from the study at his lovely home, Brandon Vogel of counterread.com. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. No complaints. Spring football's happening, so that gives us some talking points. Always happy to have that.
Head of choice today is?
Yes.
This is part of my collection from a local Omaha company, Artifact Bags. This is like the third shout out I've given them. So we got to start converting.
Good for them.
I've got to get a deal.
Yeah.
But,
Hashtag no free ads.
oh, I'm happy to give them for free hats. I have a hat problem.
Don't we all?
You wrote about it today at counterread.com about John Butler and the comments that he made yesterday. Could Nebraska get away in 25 with no real star on defense, but they have 5 to 6 guys they feel comfortable with in the front end, the middle part of the defense, and the back end?
I think so. I think you, particularly that way. So, that would leave the D line where you're filling some major holes. Like, it's going to be tough to approach the level Nebraska's D line played at last year, based on, I think, what we can reasonably project from the players that they have. But with a new coordinator, maybe some new ideas, if you're really good in the back 7, 8, you can get a little bit creative. I think it's possible that you can make a go of it that way. I mean, when you look at Nebraska's defense last year, which I've been doing a lot lately, really good in a lot of respects. Like their yards per play, shout out Dana Holgerson, was higher than what I would have guessed, like having kind of forgotten that number from the previous season. So that means reducing a lot of the big passing plays that Nebraska had. So if they've got a group that's capable of doing that, I do think that's kind of a path to maintaining what was a pretty high level or maybe even progressing a little bit.
So the big emphasis from not just John Butler, but kind of the staff in general when talking about the defense is red zone defense and the third down conversion rate. I want to give you some stats here. Nebraska last year was 24th in the country in red zone opponent scoring, both field goals and touchdowns. They were 30th in third down conversion percentage in the country. Is this for just how we measure John Butler as a defensive coordinator? Are those kind of just the baseline marks, and we are going to kind of in part judge success is if he is improving on those marks?
I think so. Well, long term, maybe not, but I think short term, the way, since this has been a constant refrain from both him and Rule, and I think Rule when kind of speaking in place of Phil Snow, though Phil Snow talked about third down defense and how Nebraska could maybe get a little bit more, this is my term, advanced there, I guess. So when you look at John Butler taking over a defense that lost a bunch of stars, and this is his second DC gig at the college level, like the quickest way for him to make people not notice the difference or be close to what Nebraska did last year is to be better on third down and red zone. Like, and the reason I think that maybe not isn't the long-term strategy is that those things can be kind of volatile year to year. They're like explosive plays for offense just because they're small sample size places. But if Nebraska does get better in those two, I think it's got a great shot at kind of keeping its points allowed pretty close to where they were at last year, which was right around 21, 22 points a game. And if you do that, then Nebraska, I think, can have a season that is good to / undeniably good. So I think they're really important coming into this. And to kind of Gary's first question, like a lot of third down defense is great to get after the passer, but you got to be good in coverage. Those are passing downs. That's why everybody wants to force them. So being a little stronger in the back 7/8 would help with that.
Yeah.
So you can't cop out here. I'm not saying that you would cop out. So it's kind of interesting the first 2 years with Tony White on third down defense, how one was like, hey, you could count on it. Then another year was a little bit inconsistent. So at the end of the day, is a good third down defense by the scheme or by the dudes that are on the field?
I think at that point it becomes a lot about the dudes on the field. Because even if you can do what you want as a defense, which is, force as long of a third down on average as you can to make the offense more predictable, like, say 3rd and 7, like that would be a great number to average. If the opponent's receivers are just better than your DBs, like you're not going to have the third down conversion percentage you probably have earned on the 2 downs previous. So I think a lot of that, and I think red zone's a little bit similar. Kind of comes down to dudes who's going to make those plays. And Nebraska had a defensive line that could get after the passer in those situations, and those guys helped, I think, in that regard. And I think that was kind of the progression you saw a little bit from 23 to 24 is Ty Robinson, Jamari Butler, Nash Hutbiker, MJ Sherman were all a year better, essentially. You don't have that this year. So I think the onus is going to fall a little bit on the secondary / linebackers.
Something he said yesterday that caught my attention was the personality of his defense is going after the quarterback. They want to make the quarterback uncomfortable. And I think it was a really interesting statement because they are losing 24 and a half sacks from last season to this season. Do you think that is an emphasis because he understands that, hey, it's going to have to be probably a team effort here from all 11 guys to do that?
Yeah, I think a little bit, it might be a little more similar to 2023 in that regard, where we saw Nebraska, get kind of exotic or send more pressures on third down. And they didn't have to do that as much because they knew guys, James Williams would be another one, Princewell, Umanuelen was also, that was kind of their only function. And both those guys transferred out. So now I do think categorizing pass rush when you're in those pure passing situations is going to have to be more of a team effort, and I think Butler mentioning that is kind of a reflection.
Hey, why do you think? And this is a little bit on the side because something you said sparked a thought that I'm bringing the NFL. So the tush push proposal got pushed back. How come we've never really seen the tush push in college football?
It's a really good question because in college football, certainly as has existed prior to this point, like you just saw bigger size discrepancies. Like we've all seen those games where it's just it's a mismatch in terms of that. So it's a little bit strange. I know it's a constant fan pet peeve to be in a 4th and goal situation or even 4th and short, and just because of the offenses they run at the college level, you'll see guys back in the shotgun. It's the Eagles success with that, which I don't think is overstated at all. Has been an interesting kind of counterpunch to where football has been going for the past decade or so.
Deshaun Singleton talked yesterday that he essentially was ready. I think the exact quote was, "I was sleeping nice," in reference to him knowing he was going to go to the league. But ruling came through the NCAA that he had another year of eligibility. He's back with the Cornhuskers. Do you think the draft stock success of Thomas Fidone and Ty Robinson had a lot to do with Singleton deciding to go back to Nebraska, despite the fact he very well could have ended up drafted in the NFL?
Certainly possible. I mean, I'm trying to remember how that timeline exactly synced up. It doesn't really matter. But like watching those guys and having choosing to come back for a year, and then whether they had already seen that stock rise, or if it was still happening, like Deshaun was there for all of it. And I don't know what his like draft projection was if he had been coming this year. Like I assume he's probably like fringe undrafted, but gets a shot. Now you got a chance to go do that, and from a financial perspective, it's not all or nothing anymore.
Yeah.
And that's I wrote when that happened, kind of a unique combination of events. Like that's a pretty big get for Nebraska to have him back. Like he is a nose for the ball type of player. So I think it's interesting, but also makes sense that they're looking at him at some different spots now. Like that's his strength. Like go get the football. And you can use a guy like that in a lot of places outside of just safety.
For subscribers of paid subscribers of counterread.com, you've had the equation series, which has been fascinating, and a little bit more on the equation that involves Holgorsen. And I want you to walk us through here because you made it. You brought something up that just didn't really dawn on me about averaging 6 yards per play more. And so maybe looking at that as the goal of Holgorsen, that only it happened twice under Scott Frost. So to make the little jump from 5.65 yards per play in Holgorsen's 4 games as OC, going up to 6, where is the biggest jump, in your opinion, going to occur that gets you to 6 and maybe even more? Because as you put, if you get to 6 yards per play, that's top 40 offense in the country?
Yeah, it is typically. And Holgorsen's career average as an OC and a head coach, which, you got to weight the head coach part of it a little bit. He had OCs, so you never know guys roll fully. Like his career average was over 6. And as an OC solely, like at Texas Tech, Houston, and Oklahoma State, those were all top 10 offenses. Mm-hmm. And not to put that out there as unrealistic or say that's what's coming to Nebraska, but that's his history. In terms of Nebraska getting there, so by improving by about a half yard per play, I think it might mostly be in the run game. And I don't mean kind of in the more traditional or the more modern sense of okay, let's include bubble screens. Let's include the passes to the running back as long handoffs. If they can be consistently better there, that's probably the quickest way to get there. Because if you can do that, if you can be at, say, 4 or 5 yards per carry, versus 3.5, 4, which kind of where Nebraska was, then it opens up some of those deeper passing plays too, which is the other missing element. But I think the bigger one in terms of frequency is probably just being a little bit better in the run game.
You think 6 yards per play is attainable with this roster and this returning quarterback?
I do. It might be a little bit ambitious, but I don't think by much. I think that's Holgorsen's track record. They've got good experience, in terms, a lot of it at wide receivers, transfer experience. So there's some translation there, and you've got a couple of spots to fill on the O-line. But in terms of growth areas for Nebraska in 2025, I think it's mostly offense. I would if Nebraska's defense was just as good as it was last year, I would consider that a big win. I would not say this. Maybe this is an obvious point, but that's not the case for the offense. The offense needs to grow.
All right. What is now that we'll let you go back into the lab? What do you have? You and Aaron cooking up on counterread.com as we are now in the month of the spring games.
Yeah, so for tomorrow, I'm actually going to try and kind of wrap up that equation series with a little bit of a look at okay, so I kind of set 9 wins as the mark where everybody's happy, right? Can't argue with it. What's it take to get there? And looking at the past 4 years, and it's pretty interesting in terms of both offense and defense. So yards per play, points per drive, turnover margin, and you can kind of set a decent baseline, and then I'll show where Nebraska's coming from that 2024 team.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. I appreciate it, my friend. Have a great weekend and take care of those birds outside your study.
All right, guys. Thanks.
See you, Brandon.
Brandon Vogel from counterread.com with birds in the background, not piped in, CBS.
What a great good shout out. What a great setup. So many books, so many birds, incredible lighting, good hat. Brandon Vogel's got it made. No wonder why he's writing such great articles over there.
He is a man of many leather-bound books.
He's very important. He's a very big deal.
All right. Good show, everybody. Thanks for participating on the 2nd of April. Got some baseball in town. Storm Chasers play at noon. Noah Cameron's pitching today, their top pitching prospect.
Oh, yeah.
You should go, man.
I
love a noon game.
I think I am going to go. I got nothing better to do.
The major league guys, I was like, hey, when's Caglione going to be here? Maybe June 1.
Oh.
And then you've got over at Tal Anderson tonight, Nebraska's in town to take on Omaha.
Might be a doubleheader.
6 p.m. first pitch.
Bring a hoodie.
We'll be talking to you So be prepared to be entertained.
Be
by yours
prepared for the
truly.
crown. Be prepared for crown talk and
Yeah,
spring
and
football, baby.
We've got Crown at 8:30. Nebraska is a 7.5-point favorite over Ewing and the Hoyas.
Ewing?
Oh, yeah.
Patrick?
Oh, yeah.
Cooley?
AI, morning.
We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6.